Hello and welcome to the SuperShow podcast in the year of our Lord 2021.
We made it.
Just about, barely, fellas.
By the skin of our teeth.
Or the world ended.
The world.
We just don't know it because we pre-recorded this.
The world is.
Maybe.
Have we pre-recorded it? I thought this was live. Ooh. But yes, welcome. You made it. Hopefully, or partially. Who knows? But we are the Super Show, and we are a gaming podcast that don't take ourselves too seriously, and we've been going for a year, which is fucking mental to me. But hey, I'm appreciative of all the listens and all the views. We are friends. Anyway, it's a very special occasion to those listening. If you're listening on a podcasting platform of your choice, Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, fucking Deezer, Stitcher, whatever. Or if you're watching on YouTube, of course, youtube.com, go into the search bar, type in Super Show, it'll show up.
Really breaking this down for the folks
I
at home.
know. You know what? Yeah, it's a new year, making sure that everyone's on the same page. But we're making history today because today I have two very special guests. The first time that they've been on. I'm talking about Jamie Jones and Alex McCulloch. How you doing, fellas?
Hi, the new.
I thought you were going to try and do me for a second there, then I realised it was just Scottish, and I was marginally less offended. Now I don't know what I'm going to do. So Cyberpunk's not even that bad. Like, the glitches are fine. You know, I haven't seen any glitches. It runs at 300 frames a second. Don't know what you're talking about.
That's like me making Chris's arguments.
Okay.
That was my Alex Jones impression. Everyone.
That was very impressive. Very
Thank
very
you for
impressive.
coming to my TED Talk.
Oh, now I feel like I need to do Jamie. Okay, here you go. Hello, everyone. Thank you for watching us. Oh, yeah.
You both make me sound like a dog.
What do you mean? If you ever say a word against Rockstar for Red Dead Redemption 2, I will come and bite your face off and kick you like a dog.
I don't know when in my head it was like Jamie became like a dog. It was about 9 months ago, or even longer.
9 months ago.
Oh, it was ATG. Longer. No, it was definitely ATG days.
ATG days. I think it's because it was the irony that Jamie hates dogs, and so him being a dog is the reason he hates them.
Yeah,
Wow.
Yeah. You are what you hate, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, other than being on YouTube for some reason, and on a podcasting platform of your choice. We are also available on Paisley Radio, which is paisleyradio.com, which is an internet radio website. And we are there Thursdays, 10 p.m. So go check us out. Say hi. And if you're listening on Paisley Radio, check us out on the other things. We're also on Twitter and Instagram at SuperShowPod, although we haven't done an Insta in a very long time. But there we go. Maybe once we get let out of our cages, we'll be able to take some pictures. Who knows?
At the moment, it would just be pictures of walls, like a bare wall.
Oh, yeah.
Not very exciting.
The blood splatter on the wall where I've been hitting my head against it, like. Anyway, guys, today, launching into 2021, as we hope to go on, we're going to do something a little bit special, all right? We're going to look at the abysmal year of 2020 and just kind of break it down. A year in review, if you will. Good games, bad games, all the fucking crazy events that happened in the gaming sphere. And, it wasn't all about just fucking crying yourself to sleep each night, although that was a large part of it, for me at least. But hey, sometimes if you're crying yourself to sleep, you need people to help you through it. And we actually have some people who helped us through a hell of a lot. I'm talking about our very generous patrons. That's right, this show is brought to you by our patrons and their generosity. So if you want to help out the Super Show, then go on over to patreon.com/supershow and check out our tiers. We've got a $2 tier, which will give you access to our Discord, where we said Merry Christmas to everyone on there, presumably, if we have pre-recorded this. Note to self. Write Christmas message to the Discord. Okay, but we also have some behind the scenes, some podcasts that are Patreon exclusive. We did a part 1 of a Q&A, and we're going to do a part 2 of a Q&A very soon. So yeah, go check it out. And fellas, I have some names to read out because they are super generous people that are helping this train stay on track. I'm of course talking about AIM, Aaron Cameron, Athletic Gravy, Backstory for Anal Beads. Don't know why you didn't change that name, but there we go. Brett Z, Hacksaw Book Read, Jesper Kaimdal Nielsen, Javela Cujo, Leo Murga, Lonnie Thompson, Martin Skihan, Mindful Pig, Nathan Piers, Scary Omen Games, Sean Kennedy, Slippy Meat, Starfall Kid, and the big boys, Freddie K. Official, Manuel Guerrero, Peaswad, and the Dude Abides. You are all fucking legends, and we love each and every one of you. Even if your name hasn't been called out, we love you anyway. If you're just listening, then, you know, you're in the love book.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, all the patrons and everyone who watches and listens.
Yeah. And hopefully you all had a lovely Christmas.
Yeah. And a party for New Year's Eve, right? Like hitting the top. No, wait, no.
Let's not be irresponsible.
No.
We might get cancelled for giving out advice like that.
But it's
drinking games over Zoom.
Oh, man, yeah. We were just saying, we're probably going to do a little bit of a Christmas party through Discord. But hey, there you go. Anyway, guys, I have a comment of the week before we jump into our year in review. This one comes from our very own Lonnie fucking Thompson. Love that dude. He says, Chris, Jamie, and Jonesy, I'm over here in New York just finishing up on the latest podcast, and I just wanted to give the three of you the biggest congratulations on finishing out a year worth of episodes. There is no denying that the release of the podcast is one of my favorite moments of every week. 2020 has been insane, but I'm so thankful to have had you guys in my life and has brought nothing but joy to me. I know I'm not alone. This New Year's, I'll be toasting a glass to every time Chris hosted, every angry rant of Jamie's, and every tinfoil hat AJ has had on. But most importantly, I'll be toasting to your continued success. So all I can say to that is, fucking thank you, my dude. That is... It's always nice to get messages like that. And you know what? I'll be cheersing to you and all of our listeners and, you know, patrons, listeners, watchers, even people that just think about us, you know, while they're in the shower, nude. So cheers to that one.
Indeed. Do you know what? It's when I read this, I did think, he's right. I've been very tinfoil hat this year. I think I might have to try and take it off.
Okay, but hold on. If ever there was a year, Jonesy, where I think it might be justified for you to have a tinfoil hat on, and I'm not just talking about COVID, this year is probably up there for, you can have your hat on.
Yeah, maybe. I think maybe watching the Quarterings videos to see his takes on every news story before you come and record ours has slightly informed whether or not your tinfoil hat has been on or off. But that's fine. Maybe.
No, that's what's interesting. He doesn't go tinfoil hat. He just goes like super drams. He's like epic drama, but the tinfoil hat stuff is I think I don't know where that comes from.
I think every now and then he goes super stroke, you know.
Super stroke.
Has a bit of a stroke and some shit.
Oh, like an actual stroke.
Like an actual stroke.
Oh.
Yeah, not like one of those, like, you know, not like a Sylvester stroke.
An enthusiastic one.
An enthusiastic stroke. But yeah, I don't know, Jamie. Anything you want to say about your angry rants?
No, I mean, I wish they were somewhat less angry. It's funny, when we'd wrap things up at ATG, I remember one of the things that I came away from that whole experience thinking was, I wish my anger was less of a defining feature of my personality. And now here we are.
I want more.
I think 2021 is the year where we take our personas, our personalities, our online personas, and we fucking crank it up to 11, fellas.
I don't know. I think there's room for nuance, right? You can have a bit of both.
I think nuance is so 2019. Like, fuck it. 2021, dude.
Nuance has not served me well at all. I feel like about everything I'm nuanced, and people get really annoyed. How dare I be nuanced? They just want like one way or the other. So I'm like, fuck it. Let's go. I think Chris is right.
This is where
nuance
we're fucking
is dead.
We're taking over, boys. I'm going to let the fucking crazy out, all right? That's just how it's
Jedi or it's Sith. It's black or it's white. There is no grey. There is no nuance.
Exactly.
We're going full throttle.
No, I feel fairly grey most of the time when it comes to my opinions and takes on things.
To be fair, Jamie, you are looking a bit grey. Maybe you should.
I feel a bit grey.
Get some sun. Chris. I don't know. Like
I feel a bit grey. Get some. What world do you think we live in? I live in England in the middle of December during a pandemic, a global pandemic, and a tier 4 lockdown. And you want me to get sun?
It is kind of mad,
Chris is under that lovely red lamp in his room, and he's thinking it's the sun.
Hey, listen, I'm not ashamed of it. Okay, I take vitamin D supplements because I suffer from SAD.
That's a good idea. Vitamin D is a good idea.
Yeah, vitamin D, and I've got one of those SAD lamps as well. You know, and not sad as in I'm a sad act. Sad as in seasonal affective disorder. So there you
It's
go.
got a sad
So
face
if you,
painted on a lap.
you get depressed if you don't get enough sun.
Yeah, big time. Oh, when I first moved to London, coming from South Africa was absolutely mental because for whatever reason, I stayed in South Africa for the entirety of winter, only to come to London for the entirety of winter. So I had a double whammy winter, and it just fucking threw me into such a depression. It was madness.
I'm gonna piss off a lot of people here when I say this, but that sounds like one of those things that is totally real and totally legit. But 50% of the people who tell you they've got it are just trying to make excuses for the fact that they're miserable. It's a bit like when someone goes, someone spells a word wrong and they go, "Well, I'm dyslexic." No doctor's ever fucking told you you're dyslexic. You're bad at spelling, you fucking idiot.
You see, I like it. Hold on, Jamie's ramping it up already.
He's already getting ranty.
And now that probably did piss off a lot of people because that's far more intimate than video games ever are. But there we go. That wasn't an attack on anyone in particular. And if you're at home listening to this and you suffer from dyslexia, I'm sure you genuinely do suffer from it, and my sympathies are extended to you. And it's you should be with me hating the people that pretend they're dyslexic when they just can't spell because they're taking away from what you really have.
True.
Do you know what got me with the last couple was the glucose intolerant people. And it was like,
glucose intolerant.
Glucose intolerant.
As in just glucose.
I think that's the first time I've ever heard. Well, they just can't have sugar.
Is it glucose? Was it glucose? What was it?
Because
glucose is
everything.
Even gluten.
I was going to say because even starches break down into glucose, so now you can't even have bread.
Yeah, these people can't have bread. They're gluten intolerant.
Well, yeah, that's already ironically gluten people can't have bread.
I'm sure there are people that are glucose intolerant, and I feel for your son because sugar's the
glucose
best thing in the world.
Suck. Yeah, sugar's.
Gluten intolerance is a weird one where like you speak to some people and they said, "Oh, I didn't have any carbohydrates for a week, and I felt so much better." And it's like, well, it doesn't matter if you're gluten intolerant or not. You're always going to feel better not having carbohydrates for a week because, like, that's just. I don't know.
Do you know? Here's a tip to everyone out there because I've done 2 diets where I stopped eating like carbs basically, and you feel incredible after a week because you get rid of all like the puffy food that you're eating, and you feel like lean and legit after. Jamie's right. It's 1 week. Yeah, most people aren't glucose intolerant. They're just eating massive bowls of pasta. Just stop.
Yeah, it is the triple whammy. I'm only sad because the sun's not out. I can't spell this word right because I'm dyslexic, and I don't feel like shit because I ate 300 pounds of pasta. It's because I have an intolerance to gluten. The triple whammy, the home run.
But then that's the thing. Like we said, there's real people out there of all those things who actually do have them.
And did I mention I'm vegan?
Oh yeah. Fucking hell. If 2020 has had some kind of a food trend, it was fucking veganism, wasn't it?
But yeah. Sorry, as Josie just said, yes, all of those things are real. You know.
Did you guys hear about that? I don't know if it's a deficiency or whatever it is, but where people, if they eat too much bread, like their gut doesn't digest it properly, and it ferments the bread in their stomach, and then they get drunk off of it.
Whoa. That's crazy.
Yeah, I can't remember what it's called, but that's a genuine thing. But there we go.
Interesting. I don't know how I feel about fermentation. You know when people like, what's the fermented thing?
But hold on, you drink
to have
beer,
an
you
emotion
idiot.
about it.
Nah, like
you drink beer. That's fermentation. What's wrong with you?
Yeah, but when it comes to you in the form of beer, that you're like,
are you supposed to have a feeling?
Okay.
You're supposed to have a feeling about every chemical process.
I
don't know how I feel about oxidization.
I can give you kind of an off-the-cuff reaction to most chemical reactions, I guess.
What's the problem with fermentation?
Do you know what it is that does me? And it's kimchi. And I look at it and people go, it's delicious. It's fermented cabbage. I'm like, what are we doing here?
What is kimchi?
I think it's an Asian dish that is it's fermented cabbage.
But like, what do you do with it? Do you mix it into?
You just eat it on its own, I think.
Oh, it's like spices and stuff. If you go to Korean barbecue, they've got kimchi there.
Oh, okay. I think
it's like a hot. They've got like a hot sauce on it with fermented cabbage or some shit.
Traditional side dish of salted and fermented vegetables such as cabbage, radish.
Yeah, but hold on, Jamie, because you see, you say that.
That's like.
But then when
juice.
But I've got a very similar thing, and people think I'm absolutely mental for saying it because I just don't like things that are pickled. And it's like, why? They're so nice. Like, it's just weird. You're just suspending it in vinegar and leaving it on a jar for 6 months. Like, come on.
Do you know what's weird about this is, because I completely understand both those points of view, right? But pickling is like the opposite to fermentation.
No, I know, yeah.
I don't want it to break down. I want to preserve it forever in vinegar. Yeah, that's how strange.
Well, guys, it's been a great start to our new kind of ramped up personas. Let's fucking keep that train going, all right? And hey, you know what? Let's jump into it because 2020 has been such a fucking ridiculous year. We got a lot to kind of cover, so we're just gonna have to fly through some of these. But let's see. Or is this going to be a 2-hour podcast? Who knows, baby? If we're going hard on our personas, then I'm going to say, no, I don't want a 2-hour podcast. I want a 1-hour podcast, but that's not going to happen. So 3-hour podcast it is. All right, fellas, January. Now, some notable big
have you told the people what we're doing yet?
Yeah, we explained it. We're going to go, but I'll run through it again, Jamie, for your benefit.
I must have missed that. Oh, sorry.
Don't get angry and ranty all of a sudden. What's wrong with you?
Can I? Oh, for fuck's sake. Okay.
All right, we're going to go break the year down month by month, going through notable releases and what's happened in the gaming sphere. Because, you know, a lot of shit's been happening. It's been a mental, absolutely fucking crazy year this year. Not just with game releases, but everything in the gaming world. So, you know, let's break it down. We'll give you our 2 cents worth.
I'm going to find this useful myself because I've already forgotten everything that happened in 2020. I think I've like blocked it out. So,
yeah. Well, I'm looking at what we got for January, and I'm like, fuck, oh yeah. So much of this stuff feels like 5 years ago because that's how fucked up 2020 has been.
True.
It's like it's screwed with my time perception so badly. But anyway, fellas, January. The big games that came out in January was Yakuza Like a Dragon, released in Japan later on. In the West, Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, and Warcraft 3 Reforged. So 2 out of those 3 games, I was like insanely excited about. Okay, I played Dragon Ball Z Kakarot at Gamescom in 2019, and I really enjoyed it. And I was like, I'm going to pick that up. And for some reason, I just didn't pick it up. But it is on sale on the Steam Winter Sale, so I might pick it up now.
Ooh.
What better time than now that I'm absolutely broke and still jobless? Anyway, and Warcraft 3 was the big one, okay? Because Warcraft 3 Reforged, one of the greatest games ever made, and this was a remaster, and a lot of what they promised seemed to be really cool. They were going to redo all of the cutscenes in the, you know, World of Warcraft style where the camera will go into people's faces, blah, blah, blah. That never fucking materialized. The game was trashed on. I think it was quite buggy.
This was one of my favourite things that I didn't care about because it was just fun to like read up how annoyed people were about it.
Well, here's the thing, Jonesy. Warcraft 3 is one of my favourite games, like easily my top 10, maybe my top 5, right? And I still haven't picked up Warcraft 3 Reforged, even though they've had technically a year to fix whatever was wrong with it, right? Because it did come out quite buggy, I believe. They also forced people who had the original Warcraft 3 to upgrade the client, which then meant they could not play the original legacy version of Warcraft 3. They had to play this new one, but the new one was kind of fucked, and I don't know. It's I have a feeling. Okay, let me put on my thinking cap here, my Swami hat, and my crystal. Let me look into my crystal ball. But I have a feeling that Blizzard is going to show up a lot in this year in review.
Yeah, they get a few mentions.
They get a few shout-outs.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was absolutely insane what happened with this. And just going harder and harder for poor old Activision Blizzard. But there you go.
It was almost like, in some respects, it felt like it was the first almost major controversy of the year. And certainly it's been fascinating, like when you're looking at the year in review in terms of video games of the industry, also cross-referencing that with the year in review of the SuperShow. And this was kind of the first time in terms of sort of thumbnail and title that we were like, right, let's go for someone or something. Like something bad has happened. Let's get a take in the title or the thumbnail or both.
Or both, yeah, as we try to do.
Yeah. And it was kind of fascinating hearing, certainly, a long-time fan's perspective for you, Chris, but also, like Jonesy said, just kind of looking on from a very safe distance saying, I hope I don't get fucked over like this by any game that I'm looking forward to this year. ...
Yeah. Oh my God, if only we knew.
Actually, I've got another one. I hope no other company has to change their refund policy to automatically issue refunds whenever people request them this year.
Yeah, this was almost like the starter or the amuse-bouche for the main courses to come later on in the year.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, it disappointed a hell of a lot of people. And I don't think... I haven't really looked up on it that much, but I'm sure I would have heard something if it was in a much better place, but I don't think it is. And I think it's just a really, like, let's put it this way. A remaster, like remasters this year, there've been some good ones, okay? And this could have been fucking knocked it out of the park for Activision Blizzard, right? Like, it could have been really something special, and they just fucking fucked it. Again, maybe a precursor to some other things that'll be coming up later on. But yeah, just fucking interesting, right?
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. Another thing, Activision Blizzard, talking about them. So, you know, not just Blizzard properties like Warcraft or Starcraft or Overwatch, but also Call of Duty, or the Call of Duty League, and Activision Blizzard. They entered a deal with Google to exclusively broadcast their esports content on YouTube.
Yeah.
You know, locking out a lot of other, you know, Facebook, Mixer.
That's the thing. At the time, Mixer would have been on the table. We're glad that they didn't go that way.
But yeah, okay, you know, much to the annoyance of people, but I don't know. I don't really get fussed by this kind of thing.
No,
like,
but I mean,
YouTube is a free service. Like, it shouldn't.
Yeah, if it's behind a paywall, it'd be something different, but it's not. You know, you can just log on to YouTube and watch it. But I get why people get annoyed about stuff like that. Exclusivity in gaming in general pisses people off. I think they want to watch it wherever they go regularly, and so it was a little bit of an odd.
Yeah, I think what's happened for me is I've just had to kind of, as we all need to do, I've just accepted that exclusivity is a thing that is just not going to go away. So why let it bother you?
It kind of goes hand in hand as well with the acceptance of esports as like a sporting event. And you've got to believe that as that becomes more and more of a thing, as more people watch it, more exclusivity is going to happen more and more because people are going to want to watch those events. And I want to say, like, even we'll talk about it a bit later on, but like the Game Awards this year was massive. Like, you know, and you're going to reach a point where we did a official co-stream, I think, on YouTube and. Sorry, not YouTube, on Twitch. And that won't be a thing in a few years because they'll be too big, they'll sell loads of advertising, and chances are it'll be exclusive. So
it's unfortunate. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but I think we just got to get used to it, man. It's not going away. Especially if esports is trying to emulate traditional sports, which a lot of esports are trying to do.
As long as it sticks with esports and doesn't start being like you're only allowed to show game footage from this game on this platform, because that would suck.
Yeah.
Like if you couldn't make content on certain platforms, you couldn't stream.
Yeah, imagine if they said, no, COD can only ever live on YouTube. You're not allowed to stream it on Twitch. Like, fucking hell. Like, even as a player, that'd be mental. But yeah, Jamie, you were going to say something about that situation.
I might have been about to say something, Chris, but I don't know what it was, so...
Classic. Okay, moving on. CD Projekt Red kicked off the year by delaying Cyberpunk 2077 until September 17th. So, you know what? Wait until we get to September, where obviously we'll talk about the fantastic release that Cyberpunk 2077 had then. But, you know.
Yeah, I can't wait to that point in the podcast when on September 17th, Cyberpunk 2077 is released to rapturous applause.
Yeah. And the final notable thing, I mean, there's been lots of things, right? We just kind of cherry-picked a couple of things, yeah. But the final thing in January to talk about is Google Stadia went exactly 40 days without a new game announcement or release, a feature update or community update. And it had only been out for 69 days at that time. So,
do you know what? I tried to, I've had a Stadia, like I've been paying for Stadia every month since it came out.
You've been paying for it?
Yeah. Only the cheap, like the cheap one, the cheapest one you can get.
But it's free.
It was free for a while, and then it went to like a certain amount. I think I can't remember what it was.
Oh,
I think Jonesy must be playing for the version of Stadia that gets some access to a bunch of games, as opposed to just buying games and playing them.
Which at that stage, in January, wasn't a thing, right?
No, it was the other way around. In January, the free version wasn't a thing. Like in January, the only way you were playing Stadia was if you were paying every month.
Stadia is such
and eventually they were okay, now Stadia as a service exists, but you have to buy the games.
Yeah, do you know what? I've tried to play one game on Stadia this year, and it didn't work.
So why are you still paying for it, you idiot?
It was one of those things where I kept forgetting that I had it, and then I was like,
"That's how they get you."
I need to cancel that, and then I forgot again, and I literally remembered about a month ago and was like, "Oh, let me play a game on there," and it didn't work.
It didn't work. Even a month ago, it didn't work.
Like it wouldn't load up. Like, my internet is good as well. I've got fast internet; it just wouldn't load.
Holy
I
shit.
couldn't get into it.
You know how like services have gone crazy this year in terms of the amount of people offering them and what it feels like we're getting in return. I'm convinced that 99% of what drives the services industry forward is people forgetting to cancel subscriptions. They must make so much money off people who forget to cancel.
Oh, dude,
because we all do it every time.
Gym memberships are the same thing. Like every month you pay for your gym membership and you never go.
I think I paid for a gym membership for, well, multiple years, but I used to go and then I stopped going, and I think I was still paying for it for like a year and a half before I was like, I should probably cancel this. I'm never going. But that was one where I always had the intention of going, which is even worse.
Yeah.
Because I was like, no, I know I'm paying for this, and that's fine because it'll get me off of my ass to go there, and I never fucking went and just wasted my money. There you go.
I think games though, like the app thing, they get me with that, like where they go 2 weeks free, and then I sign up, and then I forget to cancel it, and then
but that's how you know. That's how you know that Jamie's absolutely right, because yes, it's 2 weeks free, but you still have to use your credit card. Why? Because they're going to charge you automatically as soon as that 2 weeks is up. It's like Pornhub Premium. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's deadly as well on devices or on accounts where you already have all your details set in, and on Apple, I think as Josie was just alluding to, you can kind of start subscriptions through Apple's in-app purchases on all kinds of services through usually just Face ID now. Or Touch ID, whichever phone you're on. And it's like, hey, as long as your fucking face is facing this camera, as long as we can see your eyes and your nose and your mouth, you're paying for this shit, motherfucker. Like, we're signing you up.
The only slight curveball with Stadia is it's almost like because of my ongoing, like, 5-year kind of a disagreement with Jamie about cloud gaming, there's some small part of me that wants to support Stadia in the idea.
Do you know what's funny about that?
It might become that, and it's not.
Do you know what's funny about that? And we might have to get a SuperShow super fan, if there are any left by the end of this podcast, to go back and do the research for us.
I know what you're going to. I think I know what you're going to say.
I'm pretty sure in one of the January podcasts, maybe the one where this news that we're talking about is the most recent. It's at its most recent. I'm pretty sure you bet, Jonesy, that Stadia will be dead by the end of the year.
Oh, I think that sounds about right. Yeah, I thought
so.
It probably would be.
Can you clarify your stance?
I think that was a bet that maybe we all agreed with anyway.
So I disagreed. That's why I'm bringing it up. Chris, why would I bring up a bet that I knew I lost? I'm in this game for winning, baby.
Oh, we definitely didn't make a bet about it. I think
no. Like we had the conversation, I should say.
I think because I for me the outlook of Stadia for this year looks really bad. I think remember it's because when we started getting into the nitty gritty of how they actually function as a platform and how they were going to make money, and the fact you had to buy like full price game, and it just it's like kind of madness really.
Yeah.
To me, and they've had a shocking year. I think
they have had a shocking year, but you know what the weird thing is? Just a little bit of jumping ahead. It turns out that maybe one of the best platforms to actually play Cyberpunk on is Stadia.
Yeah.
Go figure.
That's interesting. I was tempted to have a go, but I'm not going to pay. I'm not about to pay.
No, that's the thing. You have to buy it.
Just to try it.
Yeah, there was some dude that hacked his Nintendo Switch to run Android, and then through Android, open up Stadia and then play Cyberpunk on his Switch, which is pretty fucking cool.
Idea.
Yeah, it's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
But anyway, that was it for January, right? Now, what's interesting about January is, as we mentioned with Warcraft 3, and we're looking at Blizzard, we're looking at CD Projekt Red, we're looking at Google Stadia. It was what we mentioned, almost a starter, a teaser for what's to come later on in the year. So
do you know what's funny about January is we weren't even making coronavirus jokes at that point. Like, there's an episode of the podcast in January where I come on with cold or flu-like symptoms.
Oh yeah, you were sick, yeah.
And I'm coughing, and Chris's joke is that I've got the plague. Like, that's how. How weird is it to make a joke about that, but that's not a coronavirus joke? That's how much our lives have changed now.
Or even more than that, we were still employed in January, so...
I mean, technically speaking, yeah. You had a very nice setup.
That's my last paycheck, so there you go.
Yeah. A lot changed in February, as it turned out.
Yeah. All right, so I don't know if you guys know this, but usually what happens is after January, you get a month called February.
I've heard of it.
So, yeah. Good old Feb. Febimeister. All right. And the big game releases in February were Dreams. That PlayStation 4 game-making game thing.
Something that I meant to get on like all year. Like I love the idea of Dreams, and I actually, funnily enough, downloaded the demo like very recently because I still want to get on that. I still want to have a play, and I think it's got some optimization for the PlayStation 5.
Okay.
And I like the idea of making games, as people would have heard before in the podcast.
Yeah,
it's never gone very far, but you know,
I think Dreams is meant to be one of those where it's easy to make. It's easy to make stuff.
Yeah.
But what I love about those kinds of games, it was the same with like Little Big Planet when it came out, where people's creativity and they just spend so much time in it that you get to see some like really fucking amazing things, right?
Mm.
Yeah,
people really getting to grips with one thing that they really want to do.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, a little bit of a quiet release month. I think as we're gearing up for the rest of the stuff, my beloved Dota had an update of Dota Underlords, which was auto chess, which so auto chess was a mod within Dota 2, and everyone started scrambling saying this is the next big fucking thing. So Dota made their own auto chess. League of Legends made their own auto chess. I believe Blizzard said that they were doing their own auto chess in Hearthstone, but I don't know if that ever materialized. It probably did. I don't fucking know. I don't play Hearthstone.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was. And the original developers of the auto chess spun out away from Dota's custom maps to create their own version of auto chess. And where's auto chess now? Fucking nowhere.
That was might be the quickest sort of life cycle of a video game genre perhaps ever.
Yeah, it's mad. But like at one point the auto chess mod within Dota was seeing more concurrent players, like weekly players and daily players, than the actual Dota itself. That's how kind of like meteoric it was. And then it's just kind of like fizzled out. It's quite amazing, actually.
Amazing, yeah. Probably depressing for some people who are convinced they'd stumbled upon the next multi-million-dollar idea. But
yeah, especially because I believe that the auto chess people rejected an offer by Valve themselves to be bought over and spun into their own thing and said, no, we'll do it on our own because quite clearly we've got something special here. Fuck.
Yeah, I think that seems to happen. There seems to be one of those every year where everyone's convinced that this is the next big thing, and then it kind of is a flash in the pan and just kind of disappears as quickly as it came.
Yeah,
but
I think it's the battle royale.
You need one a year, so
but it's the battle royale effect, right? Like you don't want to be caught with your pants around your ankles. You got to be like, fucking, I'm ready. You know?
Yeah, and the other thing that the battle royale effect kind of not reminded everyone of, but sort of like made it clear was that you don't have to be first. Basically, you have to be the person that takes the idea and makes it for everyone, not the person who gets there first.
Yeah, like the most accessible and the best, as it were.
Yeah.
Well, not even the best sometimes. But yeah, what else happened? Rod Ferguson left his role as lead on the Gears of War series to oversee the Diablo series at Blizzard. So, you know, just Blizzard dipping in their toe in the news once again. Not for anything bad this time, but there you go.
You know what? I'd have maybe I was naive back in February, but at that point I would have hoped that we'd know more about Diablo 4 by now than we do. I don't know.
So this is the weird thing, okay? Because every now and then on my news app on my phone, I get shown a thing about Diablo 4, and they have been having updates like throughout the year, but no one's really been reporting on it. Unless you're like in the inner circle of, I'm checking Diablo stuff all the time, so some algorithm's going to pick it up and Google's going to spew it in my face. But yeah, they've been having quite a lot of updates, but nothing substantial by way of like gameplay or trailers or whatever it is. It's more like, oh, this is what we're doing with loot, and here's a wall of text for you to read in this blog post. But like, yeah, it's fine. But yeah, again, coming towards the end of 2020, some more interesting Diablo stuff, but we'll get to it. And of course, guys, February was, when we were spun off on our own and we said goodbye to our lovely SM7B mics, the Shure mics, and the Sony cameras, and we started recording in my living room.
Yeah.
As our new studio, which was a
Can't believe that was
headache
February
all in
now.
its
That's
own.
mad.
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it?
Doesn't seem that long ago.
So you guys used to pack up all your stuff, come over to my place, we'd record, and then we'd go for chicken wings at the local wingman's for some
When that was
wings.
legal.
When that was legal.
I remember I'd be depressed because we'd always finish up, recording and eating, or whichever combination of the two we're doing, and I'd always time it perfectly so that I had to go home during rush hour.
Oh, rush hour.
And again, like that's another weird thing. Like I was depressed. I wasn't worried about the sheer number of people I was about to share public transport and the fact that I was about to be crammed onto a tube. It was just that I didn't like it.
Yeah.
Didn't even think twice about getting sick.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And this was, I guess, we're now approaching the point at which we last saw each other in the flesh.
Yeah, I guess so, right? Fucking hell.
Like we
It
managed
wasn't
to
long after, yeah.
yeah, not long.
It's been a mental year. So what else can you say, really? All right, but yeah, February was a bit of a slow one, as the world was just finding out about coronavirus, as it were. So we're coming up to March, and now this is where we're hitting some big releases, fellas. Yeah.
I didn't realize March was this mental until we wrote this up. And then I was like, what the fuck happened in March?
I think it's that thing because we're saying like February and January are always pretty dry, aren't they? And then you sort of get to spring and games start to come out again, and you start to get towards summer and there's some big releases. Little did we know that, some of these games were going to go, they were going to be all we were going to be doing for the next 9 months.
Yes. Well, guys, I will tell you that no bigger game released this year other than in March, okay? And this may surprise you, because I think it definitely surprised a lot of us by just how popular it became. I am, of course, talking about Cooking Mama Cookstar.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
The story of the year.
No, I'm talking about Animal Crossing New Horizons, which is like sold more units than I would ever imagine was possible. I don't know. It was mental. It was that perfect intersection of, here is this game that everyone is excited about on this console that is doing really well at a time when everyone is about to stay at home for a very long time and have a lot of time on their hands. And it was just like the perfect storm to make Animal Crossing New Horizons like one of the biggest games ever. It's mad. It's absolutely mad.
Who could have seen it coming?
It was bizarre. That was because I bought Animal Crossing when it came out because the hype train for that was pretty impressive. Like I found it odd because I was like, I've never heard of Animal Crossing before this, so why now everyone suddenly wants to play Animal Crossing New Horizons was kind of odd. But yeah, I think I got it. I think I got it in March, maybe just about. And sunk some decent number of hours into it. Still don't really get why people were so obsessed with it. But, fair enough. It is a cute little game that I can see why people enjoy.
I think FOMO had a lot to do with it, right? It was like, so you're at home all the time, which means either you're playing games or, let's call 2020 for what it is. You were on a version of a social media platform, and on that platform, people would just be talking about their Animal Crossing. And it was almost like this weird circle of life kind of thing where people are talking about Animal Crossing, so then therefore people were playing Animal Crossing, which would mean that people would talk about it, so more people would see it, and then they'd go out and play it, and then they'd talk about it, and it was just kind of like spiraled out of control. It was mental.
Yeah, exactly. And then coupled with the fact that, you had parents who were looking down the barrel of like their kids being at home and they have to work from home and their kids weren't going to school, and it was get them a Switch and then they can take it off to their bedroom or they can take it in another room, and what game are they going to play? How about this game which is is a daily thing that happens in real time and has weekly things to check in for, and has like those events around Easter and Halloween and etc. It was the perfect game at the perfect time.
Totally.
They must be so psyched that they did that happened. In that, it's such a coincidence.
100%.
Yeah, I mean,
imagine if that production process was a few months out of whack. Imagine if the release for New Horizon was like September, October. You got to bet that they would have been locked down. The game would have been delayed somewhat. They would have missed. would have been a completely different story.
Hold on. Games being delayed because of lockdown? Dude, that's unrealistic. What are you talking about?
At this time in the year, it seemed unrealistic, yeah.
This was almost the time where it was maybe the opposite, where like everyone was panicking, was like, actually, no, let's get this shit out quickly. And all these release dates were obviously set in stone beforehand, but I think there were some people who were definitely like, and there's a couple of examples in April, which we'll get to as well, where I think they were like, if we don't do this now, there's no knowing when we're going to do it. Yeah. Because you can go back to, not to bring it back to us again, like everything revolves around us, but hey, I'll do it anyway. You can go back to some of our podcasts from the time where when the delays start happening, because even with all the games that did come out in March, again, by this point, Cyberpunk had been delayed, The Last of Us had been delayed, Final Fantasy got temporarily delayed, and so on and so forth. Yeah. There's genuinely a podcast where we wonder if any games are going to come out, and we ponder the possibility that like major AAA releases just stop for 6 months or so. And luckily they didn't, but like that's how real it was at the time.
Well, I mean, kind of. They kind of did. Like, if you look at Cyberpunk,
well,
in a way.
Cyberpunk is the only, in my opinion, like the only major game that like...
Yeah.
Actually, so Cyberpunk got delayed out of this period and still came out. Marvel's Avengers got delayed out of this period and still came out.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, man,
I guess
Marvel's Avengers.
You could argue
I can't wait until we get to that one.
Yeah, there's some doozies in this year.
Well, I can tell you guys that the first 6 months of Animal Crossing New Horizons, they sold 14.27 million units. For up to that point, a cumulative sale of 26.04 million.
Crazy.
It's mental.
That is absolutely insane.
Yeah, it's mad. Like, there were Switch shortages. People couldn't buy the fucking console.
Yeah. That's the fucking thing. It's a console exclusive. Like in real time, as where we are now, Cyberpunk just updated their numbers, and because before we only had their pre-order numbers, and they are nowhere near as good as Animal Crossing's numbers yet, and they're on every platform going.
Well, they're on every platform, but they did say that they have 18 million copies sold, and that's including pre-orders, and then that's including the refunds, which is still pretty fucking good, right? Like,
oh, it's still phenomenal.
It smashes the Animal Crossing 6-month sales. But then again, as we said, that's like on every fucking platform imaginable, except for the Switch.
Yeah, I guess it's just, there's some of the circumstances around Animal Crossing just make it seem bonkers, yeah.
It's insane. It's almost like Nintendo didn't have to do anything else this year. And as we'll find out, it's almost as if they didn't do anything else this year. And, that could have kind of floated them for the entire year, if not into 2021 as well. But yeah, okay, guys, so I mentioned Cooking Mama Cookstar, even though it was a bit of a joke there. There was an interesting story with that one as well. Do you guys remember?
Oh, how could you forget? That was the reason this game's on this list, I think.
I don't remember.
You don't remember, Josie?
Oh, yeah. What? Yeah, it wasn't the weird thing with the release of it, and then it was released by a different company, and it was all a bit weird.
Hell
basically,
yeah.
God, I vaguely... Yeah, because it wasn't even a licensed thing, was it? And it got put onto the Nintendo store, and
it was
a
something
bit strange, and...
It was something that was like they didn't actually have the rights to make the game, but they made it and then they released it. And then I thought it was
the opposite.
I think it was Majesco or something.
I thought they did have the rights, but it was like a bit of a bullshit game that didn't really work and wasn't even tied to the people who made the original. And they somehow said to Nintendo, "Yeah, this is legit."
I think it was both, actually. I think because there were multiple things around Cooking Mama Cookstar.
I don't really remember.
Yeah.
I think the situation was that the developers did have the right to start making a Cooking Mama game, but there was some dispute around the progress that their game was making and the quality of the game. And essentially, I think I think it's Planet Entertainment who own the rights to King Mama, and were like, you can't release this thing. And then they just released it anyway, and then Planet Entertainment worked with Nintendo to immediately get it removed from the eShop. Like, what? You can't fucking release this game? Like, what?
Can I hold on? Why does every month have a story that sounds like it's talking about Cyberpunk?
I'm telling you, it was all because in the
foreshadowing
in the simulation that we are living in. This is all getting us prepared for the
great spaghetti monster in the sky was setting us up.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man, Spaghetti Monster. That was True Detective, Season 1.
Season 1, the guy with the scars on his face, the burns.
I was fucking thinking about that the other day. That was such a fucking baller season.
I was thinking about it the other day as well because there's a movie coming out that had a trailer released recently that basically seems like it's trying to be True Detective.
Really?
Well, a mix between True Detective and Seven, it feels like.
Okay.
Which is like, hey, what if like an old jaded cop had to team up with a young up and coming cop to investigate a possible serial killer played by an intriguing and controversial actor. Interesting cast though. It's Denzel Washington and Rami Malek are the cops.
Yeah.
And Jared Leto's the murderer.
Called The Little Things or something?
The Little Thing. It's the little things.
It's the little thing.
Oh, that's one of those films that could either be great or will be absolute balls, and it'll just got one or the other. That's not going to be a nuanced film. It's going to be really good or really bad.
Well, guys, it'll never come out anyway because we're never going back to the theatre ever again. So there you go.
Hey, if Tom Cruise has anything to do about it, then we will. He'll keep that industry going and keep those people in jobs.
Hell, man.
He probably gave them coronavirus by shouting at them.
No, I'm on.
He had a mask on.
I'm on Tom Cruise's side on that one.
I think everyone's on Tom Cruise's side. The only thing
you don't know what happened. I love it if it wasn't anything to do with coronavirus and it was something completely unrelated. Like, I didn't even know. But
he caught someone jerking off and he was like, "This is a coronavirus."
It's still a firm second place to Christian Bale, in my opinion.
Oh, that Christian Bale.
Oh, good for you.
Get the fucking lights. All right, anyway. Some other noticeable releases. Persona 5 Royal. We're not really Persona 5 kind of people, unfortunately. No. Although people that are into Persona 5 are really fucking into it.
Does that surprise you, though?
Like, that's kind of like saying people that like marzipan really like marzipan.
I do like marzipan. So.
Name something that originates from, say, Japan or South Korea that people sometimes like out here, that when they like it, they tend to really like it.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Except maybe sushi.
Fine, all right, you made your point.
That's that CD Projekt line of hey, people that have played and finished our game seem to like it.
Yeah,
funny that.
Yeah. But you know what? March did make history, fellas, in a very big way, because a Half-Life game came out.
Genuinely.
Yeah,
like,
Half-Life Alyx.
If you told me at the beginning of yes, it did.
Did it though?
It's not a conspiracy, Alex Jones. You don't have to put your tinfoil hat on this one.
Did it come out?
Jonesy, I can show you the ending cutscene that neither of you two have seen yet, and you'll know it's a Half-Life game.
I know.
Whether you want it to be or not, it's a Half-Life game.
I've played a VR Prince of Persia experience, and I don't think I would call that a Prince of Persia game. Don't get me wrong; it's a very cool game. It's a very cool VR game. Like Jamie said, I haven't finished it. I think I'm only like 5 hours in or something, and it's very cool. And I enjoyed playing it, and will at some point, once my room that I used to use for VR has been deconstructed from the state it's in at the moment as a home office, I can actually play some more of it.
Yeah.
But it didn't feel. I don't know. Maybe it's because it was VR, but it didn't feel like a.
I don't know. That it felt
game.
very Half-Life to me, dude.
Yeah, no, and I did in the setting, but it's just I think VR for me always feels different. Like if you ever said to me a game if they made a Red Dead Redemption 3 and it was a VR game, I'd be like, is it a Red Dead Redemption game? And you're there going, it is. I'm on a horse. I'm like,
I mean, you would. Is it? That's just your way of saying because it's not happening. It's not being presented in the way you're used to that it doesn't count.
Yeah, it's a different medium. That's why every game on the Nintendo Wii didn't really count. That used the motion controllers because it was like, is it a real game if I'm swishing my hand around?
What are you talking about?
So like Skyward Sword's not a real Legend of Zelda game.
Kind of.
Yeah, and Super Mario Galaxy, one of the best games ever made, is not a real Mario game.
But you had to you didn't have to swish your hands around to play that, right?
You had to collect the stars and you can make them spin and stuff.
Yeah, if you shake the controller, it makes them spin. Could also press a button, but
I was going to say because if those games have the option, I feel like that's fair enough. But if you only can use swishy controls, then it seems a bit odd to me.
Dude,
they don't have the
you've gone off the rails on your fucking anti-Nintendo rants.
No, it's not anti-Nintendo at all. Not anti-Nintendo at all.
Alex Jones. But look, I've been on the record as saying that while Half-Life Alyx is a good game, if you took the VR element out of it, is it still a good game?
That'd be interesting. I think it would actually be better if you took the VR element out of it.
Really?
It might be a bit short.
I think it's a weird. I think it's a weird one because I think the standards, like the goalposts, completely move when you get rid of VR. Like in terms of visuals, in terms of gameplay. As soon as you don't have one-to-one control of a first-person shooter, what the game has to be and what the game has to do completely changes. In my opinion.
That's very.
So
true.
we'll almost never know.
Yeah.
Do you know how you can? Have you seen the Doom movie with The Rock?
Yeah.
Right. There's a section in that where it goes first person.
Yeah, the last 5 minutes of the film.
Yeah, where he takes the drug or whatever it is, and he becomes all crazy. That to me is like I suppose the difference between playing a game with a controller and playing it in VR is why I say like, is it really a Half-Life game? Because in that section of that movie, suddenly none of the monsters move; they just stand there and go ah, and he like shoots them. Because I feel like in a normal game you can react much quicker, you can move much faster, but in VR you can't really do any of that. The pace
They have
is
to
much
kind of
slower.
change the AI to compensate for you at being a slow meat bag. Yeah, I get you.
Exactly.
But yeah, much like you, Jonesy, I have yet to finish Half-Life Alyx, and it's not for lack of wanting, but it's probably for lack of setup.
I'd say one thing you never ever do in a Half-Life VR game, you never walk into the hangy-dangly things because you can see them, they're right in front of you. Like, these are so goddamn obvious. How do I ever walk into these in like a normal Half-Life game?
Whereas in Half-Life 2 in one stream, you hit about 7 of them, Jonesy.
No, I didn't.
You did.
In the actual game. In the actual game, I can't bloody see them. But in Half-Life Alyx, I thought you were talking about that. In Half-Life Alyx, they're so obvious.
I never saw you play Half-Life Alyx. This was because, but again, by this point, we weren't allowed to see each other.
Oh my god! Yeah,
I think I thought we made a video. Did we not make a video? Maybe we did.
We clipped out a video from the podcast of us talking about how Half-Life Alyx works
and put some footage on. Yeah.
Cons.
But yeah, Ori and the Will of the Wisps came out in March as well, which is a great game. I played a little bit of it, but Jamie, you finished it, didn't you?
One of the best games of the year.
Wow.
One of the top 10 games of the year. One of the top 10 games of the year. You heard it here first, folks.
Oh, saying top 10 games of the year is not really giving it much praise.
How many good games were there this year?
Yeah, exactly.
10?
I've played like 50 games this year. I counted the other day.
That's mental.
Good games.
Fair play, yeah.
Good games? I don't know.
Yeah. 10. Anyway, okay, but yeah, it's a good game. I bought, well, through Games Pass, I downloaded Ori and the Will of the Wisps, but also Ori and, was it the Blind Forest?
Yes.
I did the same thing.
Yeah, and the idea was to go Blind Forest, finish that, and then play Will of the Wisps and finish that. I started playing what I thought was Blind Forest. It was actually Will of the Wisps. I realized...
I'm sorry, Chris. I'm getting a little update here directly from Jeff Bezos. You can't actually call it the Blind Forest anymore. I'm going to have to ask you to refer to it as Ori and the Hard-to-See Forest.
Okay. Because you can't have...
Wait, how is that going?
No, because Twitch says you can't have blind playthroughs on your tags anymore.
Twitch remove the term blind playthrough because it's offensive to blind people.
You can't even say simp or virgin or super simp or turbo virgin
or incel.
Yeah, if you say it on your stream or incel, you are breaching their terms of service and you could get banned.
If you just say simp or incel,
because they're now considered like insults that are like that aim at someone's sexual like preferences or sexual.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
Blah 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 blah. I don't know.
What simp is a sexual preference? I prefer not to have sex and just to pay for it anyway.
I don't know.
Alex Jones, if you were a simp and someone called you out on it, that's bullying.
We accidentally just jumped ahead to December. That's my bad. Sorry.
Yeah, it's all right. But anyway, yeah. So I started playing Will of the Wisps instead of Blind Forest, and I was like, once I realized, it's like, oh fuck, I'm gonna stop playing Will of the Wisps and go play the other one, and I just never got around to it.
You know what they call that?
What?
They call that a Mass Effect.
Pulling a Jonesy.
Pulling a Jonesy on Mass Effect. You got to go back, play the original.
Pulling a Lost. We got to go back. All right. Anyway, Call of Duty Warzone, which gave us many hours upon hours of entertainment during our lockdown, was released and is still going. And in fact, I was looking for some footage for a video that we are trying to finish, which is taking forever, but that's my fault. And Soap is there was a secret cutscene. This is again also just skipping forward to December, but we're going to talk about it now because I don't want to forget about it. But if you do a whole bunch of like intel gathering in Warzone, and this, I think it's the current season.
Yes.
you are treated to like a 3 to 5 minute actual cutscene, like high quality, what you'd imagine from a main Call of Duty series. All about like fucking nukes launching and then introducing soap. It's kind of mad.
Yeah, this was the thing that actually almost in and amongst how, in my opinion, good Warzone has been throughout the year and how playable it's been throughout the year. One of the things that has been lost about it is that Chris is absolutely right. Warzone has a story, and Warzone's story is a continuation of the what the ending for Modern Warfare teased. And I didn't think they'd go as far as they have, but they've essentially bridged the gap between Modern Warfare and whatever Modern Warfare 2 story will have, presumably this time next year. And it's not that surprising. I guess one of the only things to note about that story is that people who remember the final cutscene of Modern Warfare might remember that Imran Zakhaev's son, the younger Zakhaev, who is in the original Modern Warfare, is set up as kind of the more prominent Zakhaev in this timeline. He is dealt with in this cutscene that Chris is referring to.
Well,
and his plan, as good as dealt with.
He's coming back, dude. Come on.
Yeah, but I'm wondering whether or not they do. But I don't want to get into spoiler territory, but it's like, okay, so now is that their way of saying actually Imran Zakhaev will be in this one, but then also Imran Zakhaev has just been in another Call of Duty game that I won't go into too much detail on for other reasons? I don't know. The important thing to note, though, is that over the course, not only did they confirm in the cutscene last year that Garrick, who you play as through some of Modern Warfare, 2018,
he's Gaz.
2019 is Gaz, but also, as you've said, Chris, Soap is now back, Price is now back.
Yeah, Ghost.
Ghost is back, and they strongly implied that Nikolai and Farah, and what's the guy's name? Alex from the last campaign are now part of Task Force 141. Can you guys tell I like Modern Warfare?
Yes.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
But
Sorry.
You know the other thing that Warzone brought us, fellas, that I never thought we'd have to be dealing with in 2020 was massive fucking patches with no discernible changes.
Yeah, huge mega patches.
Here's a 20 gigabyte patch, and what we've done is we've moved 2 trees to the left.
Yeah.
Like, fuck off.
I can't make any excuses for it. It's been terrible. But yeah, I love that game. Do you know when the last time I played Call of Duty Warzone was?
Last night.
Yeah. This morning.
Yeah.
No, last night. Do you know when the last time I got a win in Call of Duty Warzone was?
Last night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I played Call of Duty Warzone last night as well.
Did you really?
Oh, why didn't you posse up? I could have got you in the crew.
I did look to see if you were online, but you weren't online. So
I didn't jump on to like 11, I think, because I was working.
Oh, I think I played at 10, and then I think I was off. But then no one else was coming on, so then I stopped. Do you know what? I came second in Rebirth Island on my own, even though it's trios, because there's a rare badge if you get in a vehicle for 20 minutes. So I just got in a helicopter and just circled the island until there was me and 2 people left. So I was in the last 2 teams, but I didn't have any weapons. I just had a pistol. So then I tried to take out the last 2 guys with a pistol and lost. But I came second.
Fair enough. I wonder if it was you and one other guy and you were in the helicopter and you crashed the helicopter into them, if you would get the win.
That's a legit tactic.
Yeah, that's not a bad shout.
But would you get the win? I think you would. Because I think
if the other guy
you
survived.
actively killed the other person. No, even if you died. So if it's like full kamikaze.
Oh.
I think you would win because you would have gotten the kill. The other guy wouldn't have gotten the kill on you because you killed yourself.
I don't know. Kills don't matter. It's who's like, because you could die to gas and give someone a win. Like, you don't have to kill someone to win a match. You just have to be the last one alive.
I suppose it would be who would have died first, how the game would decide who was dead first. Which would be interesting because surely the crash kills both of you.
Yeah. Well, one of the cool things that Call of Duty Warzone gave us as well was we were streaming it. I don't remember what month we started streaming, but hey, we were streaming quite a lot of Call of Duty Warzone at one stage.
Yeah, we were.
Yes, that's what prompted me to upgrade my PC because it could not stream and let me play Warzone at the same time.
Which is unusual because I could on my trusty 1060. But hey, there you go. But yeah, just Call of Duty Warzone. I'd be keen to go back into it as well. So, maybe I got to do that fucking all those updates, motherfucker.
Do it.
The funny updates in terms of the amount of space they take up on hard drives. I get the argument. It's annoying. We all need space.
Yeah.
And again, a game takes up too much of it. It's frustrating. The downloads, just leave it going overnight.
Yeah, that's fine. Going further into the future of 2020, once people got their PS5s with the limited amount of storage space on it and the full install size of Modern Warfare and Warzone, it is mental. It's like, 250 gigs?
I don't know. All I know is that as someone who tries to have Modern Warfare, Black Ops Cold War, and Destiny 2 installed all like at the same time and like on a consistent basis, I'm suffering.
I'm suffering. I can see it. Oh man. What else came out in March? Neo 2 for people that like Neo. I enjoyed Neo 1 when we streamed it on ATG, but we didn't stream it. We did Let's Play. But yeah, Neo 2 just kind of, I don't know, passed me by. Not that interested.
Yeah,
I think it's got its fans. But one game that certainly does have a lot of fans was Doom Eternal.
Very good game.
Yeah, what you guys think? What you guys think of that one? Huh?
Yeah, I thought it was great. I played a shitload of it. I haven't finished it yet, but I have installed it on my PlayStation 5, so I can finish it because I had a really good time with it. And
nice.
Yes, genuinely enjoyed it.
I'll admit it. I started playing it and just didn't care for it.
I thought you liked it, but you just fell off.
Yeah, but I fell off because I didn't care for it. Because it was just... I don't know. I'm probably going to sound like a fucking boomer gamer here, but I just thought there was too much shit going on all of the time, and I was just getting fatigued by it. It's just like, do I really want to have to think about all of this shit while I'm just trying to kill demons? Like, just let me kill demons.
I know what you mean. It is that kind of game, and I like definitely. I remember one of the things that I said about it at the time was that I felt like they had introduced maybe a few too many layers on top of what already existed from Doom 2016. In terms of that idea that they're always striving for, right? That sort of first-person shooter chess of like you do this to get that, and you do that to get that, and blah, blah, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. Only this type of weapon can kill this type of enemy.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought
which is all fine, but
many.
I think I agreed with you. I think they just took it way too far.
That said, still a very good game.
Yeah.
Again, it's in the top 10.
What were they thinking with those fucking platforming sections?
Oh, I like them. I like
the platforming.
I thought it was sludge.
No, I think that game feels really tight in pretty much all aspects, and I thought those platforming sections were nice excursions from the intensity of the firefights.
I think, do you know what? I think the first thing I shared on my channel this year.
Chris, you don't get to pull that face. You played half an hour of this game, probably at 10 frames a second. Sit down.
I did not play half an hour of the game. I streamed it twice for 3 hours each, and it was at least 30 FPS
I forgot you
onwards.
streamed Doom. Oh, wow. That's a blast. I'm remembering those streams now.
So the very first 8 months ago, the very first thing I put on my own personal YouTube channel was me playing. It was 10 minutes of platforming in Doom Eternal because I could not do. I don't know what the hell was going on. I could not do a relatively straightforward platforming section. I just couldn't do it.
No, but I think it's fair. I remember that section, but platforming in an FPS it's a weird thing, dude. It's just a weird thing.
What's strange about that to me is that I haven't come up against any other sections in that game with platforming in that were remotely like that even felt like challenging. Really, they were all kind of jump here, do this, jump there, do that. It wasn't. None of it felt kind of like that difficult. I think I died.
No, but it was like jump here, but as you're jumping, you got to shunt to the side, and then there's this really awkward like grapple that you have to do that you never know if it actually fucking connected, but it did connect, and you're like, oh. Okay.
Oh, cool. No, I think you're right. And there was platforms that drop away. And it was a bit weird. But
I just didn't care for it. But anyway, that's me, and it's fine. I know a lot of people really enjoy Doom Eternal, and I can tell it is a good game. It's just didn't resonate. I didn't get into the rhythm of the game. But guys, March also brought the end of an era in 2 different ways. All right. And the first one is Rockstar's co-founder and lead writer Dan Houser left the company.
So sad.
Never would have thought we saw it happen. You know?
No.
But there you go. I guess we have to wait for the next big Rockstar game to come out to see if it was actually Dan Houser that had the magic or his army of writers beneath him, you know?
Yeah, that's the thing. I really hope the next Rockstar game comes out and we can all sort of like breathe a sigh of relief and say, actually, despite the fairly heavy departures, there's still a core, within that company that can churn out really top quality games.
Yeah, or at least the people that learnt enough from the OGs,
Maybe.
But at least we can go the other way, and if there is a noticeable difference, we can wait until is it Everywhere? Is coming out from Dan Houser's. What is it called?
Rocket
Boy.
That's Leslie Benzies.
Oh, is that Menzies? Oh,
yes.
Benzies.
The Benz. That's the wrong
one.
The other one.
Yeah. Maybe they'll collaborate though.
Yeah.
Wow, my bad. The other one.
But the other end of an era, fellas, is E3 2020 was officially cancelled after overwhelming concerns about coronavirus. But that's not really why it was cancelled. Let's fucking be honest with ourselves, all right? It's because everyone fucking realized that doing their own shows online was probably the better way of going about things. Pretty much everyone pulled out of E3 except for Microsoft. Microsoft was like, we're still committed to E3. And PlayStation was like, we're doing our own shit, bitch. And,
Bullshit.
What bullshit? What bullshit?
Don't get me wrong. You're right in the sense of like in a few years that would have happened anyway. But this wasn't cancelled because of that. This E3 was just COVID.
I don't know. I think they saw COVID as an easy way out.
Having been there 2 years ago and how epic that was. 2 years ago? Was it 3 years ago? 3 years ago? 2 years ago. 2 years ago. Yeah. I think this one was COVID.
I know it'll be interesting to see now that we are in 2021, if E3 will be showing its mug ever again. I think definitely we do lament the fact that something is lost when a show like E3 doesn't run in a year. Because as great and as easy as it is to have all these different companies have their online shows, if we look at what happened with Sony and each month waiting for updates on PlayStation 5, etc., there was something nice about having a central event that contained everything. There was a ramp up to this event. Loads of trailers were coming out. And instead what we got this year was kind of a trickle of information. Which, has its own kind of benefits for sure. But there is, I don't know, I feel like the gaming world is worse off by not having an E3.
I agree. Yeah, I agree with that. There was something a bit magical, as dumb as it sounds, about E3, and it was my favorite time of the year on year, and we were just kind of getting to the stage where, in 2018 we went, in 2019 we were able to live stream alongside it.
Yeah, each and every show.
Yeah, and this year it would have been fun to do something similar and come up with more cool plans for what you could do around an event like that. But alas, we can no longer.
Yeah, well, maybe it was for the better, fellas, because just as E3 got cancelled, so did our filming arrangements, as the first remote recording of SuperShow took place.
Yeah.
Because we weren't allowed to see each other anymore.
Well, famously, that first ever remote one was not a social distancing measure.
Oh yeah,
no, it was. No, I think it might have been one of us couldn't make it, and one of the other two couldn't travel. So we were like, "Fuck it, we will do this over Discord and see how it goes." And if you listen back to that podcast episode, we say at the beginning, just before anyone gets worried, we're not doing this because of coronavirus. And I think literally the week afterwards, it's like, we are now doing this because of coronavirus.
Yeah. I think we always knew that this was the way we'd have to do it eventually.
I agree.
Coronavirus or not, because the idea would be like, hey, if we all got our own kind of permanent jobs and this, that, the other, and we may only be able to record in the evenings, well, we're not going to be traveling across the country, well, not really across the country, but across London to meet up in person and record. This was the easiest way of doing it. This is how it would have landed up happening either which way. But yeah, almost kind of forced our hand in terms of it, which is sometimes...
Well, see, because that's interesting marching, because I was just checking the date, and so I think it was the weekend of not the weekend, it was like Wednesday of the 11th of March, I think it was, when Jamie and I went down to Warner Brothers and we played some Mortal Kombat Spawn DLC. And that was when there definitely was coronavirus was about, because Jamie and I were talking about it, and there was a lot of people who were still like rubbing the escalators and stuff as they were going into the tube, and we were like, what is wrong with people? Like, stop touching other shit.
Yeah.
I remember being just to give you an idea of how ill-informed and like unaware I was at that time. So Jonesy and I met up. First of all, I remember Jonesy going into a pharmacist we have here called Boots and trying to buy hand sanitizer, not being able to get any. Then we went to a restaurant, and I remember we sat down, and Jonesy, before we ate, Jonesy got up to go to the bathroom to wash his hands, and I was like, I'm not doing that. I don't care.
And then when we met with the Warner Bros guy, did the elbows.
I went to shake his hand, and he was like, "Oh no, gonna have to give you the elbow, I'm afraid."
I'm just remembering something. I think this all happened because I went to South Africa, didn't I?
Could well have been. Actually, that does vaguely ring a bell about the Warner Brothers thing.
And I remember
happening.
I was talking to my friend, so Paul, who was at the time living in South Africa as well, my best friend. He was like, aren't you worried about getting like being stuck in an aeroplane when coronavirus is about? I was like, nah. I said, it's probably safer in the aeroplane than it is in London. It's just kind of mad. Yeah. And then as soon as I got to South Africa, obviously there was no self-isolation or quarantining or anything. It was just like, visit all my family and friends. Like, hey guys, shake my hand, give you a hug, spit in your face, taste my saliva. Like fucking as much mixing as was vaguely possible.
I think that's about. I've reached my limit on what I want to know about what you do with your family now.
Yeah, it's just kind of mad though to think that. Well, anyway.
It's all mad.
Which brings us, fellas, to April. Now, April was a very big year for me. Big month. Because it finally saw the release of Final Fantasy VII Remake, a remake that I've been waiting for longer than you can imagine. I don't know if you remember, but when the PS3 came out, they had this technical demo where they remade the intro sequence of Final Fantasy VII using the cell processor and all of that stuff for the PS3. And it looked fucking amazing at the time. And I was like, oh man, I wish they made a fucking game of this. And then they're like, no, we're not making it. We're not making it. Go fuck yourselves. And I remember famously there was an interview with one of the top dogs at Square Enix. And they said that they would never make a Final Fantasy VII remake because if they did that, it was effectively admitting to themselves that they could never top what they did for Final Fantasy VII. So that was a bit of an interesting one. But hey, here we are in April, Final Fantasy VII Remake. Yeah, and they did it. Well, we say that they've remade the game. They've only remade 1/5 of the game. With God knows when the next episode is going to come out and how big or small that's going to be.
Made it another 8 months and we still don't know when part 2 of 5 might get released.
Yeah, it's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I played it, finished it. One of the few games that I did finish this year, but it was a bit of a wild ride. I did enjoy it immensely. Not a perfect game by any stretch of the imagination, even though some outlets gave it a 10 out of 10 essential grade, which, everyone's got their own opinion. Some opinions are wrong.
Yes.
But that also introduced our very first spoiler cast that we released for our patrons, where Jamie also played the game, finished it, and we had I believe that was maybe an hour and a half or an hour rant on the game and what we liked about it, what we didn't like about it.
Yeah, we didn't have too many things to disagree on, which is probably why it didn't have to run too long. We were considering the differences in our sort of perspectives and our history with that game.
Yeah.
It was interesting to see how closely aligned we were when we'd both played it.
Yeah. It was quite interesting. But the game played great. I mean, the combat system still fucking amazing. Even by 2021 standards. Hey, can say that now. But yeah, it's not a game that didn't have its issues. The middle section felt a little bit saggy. The ending was very much a head scratcher for a lot of people who played the game, even those who were familiar with it and who weren't. And it had this weird thing where a lot of the textures weren't loading in properly. And some of the textures looked like, I don't know, they looked like fucking PS2, PS3 textures. They looked really, really fucking bad. And it was definitely a big gripe that I had of the game because it was fucking noticeable in every part of the game. It was ridiculous. But yeah. Also introduced my Bay of 2020, if we're going to throw out awards, of Jesse. Jesse was a great fucking character.
Yeah, I liked some of those characters more than I thought they would, but then at the same time, I felt betrayed by some of them, and in not necessarily ways that are their fault. I don't know.
Well,
you know
please
what, Chris?
Expand.
Oh no, I was going to say I remember specifically one sequence where some major characters either die or it's implied that they die and maybe they don't, and I just remember thinking, this is really what we're doing? Like we're doing it this suddenly, we're doing it in this way, we're doing it with this dialogue. We're doing it at this point in the story, and I thought like there were decisions made that were, as I say, it seems weird to refer to them like to almost personify them, but beyond the control of the characters, if that makes sense. That damage them,
right.
And then there were also, again, like lots of examples of bad writing that made the characters much harder to sort of identify with because. Sometimes there was absolutely no logic in anything they ever said or did. You're like, much like what Jonesy and I thought after playing the demo, how are we meant to emote or care about these people when they seem like fucking aliens in the way they talk and behave? Like these are, even if this is a fantasy setting, these are humans that are being presented to us that don't behave like any other human being on planet Earth.
Yeah.
It was pretty weird. And I didn't even play it apart from the demo. So.
Here's a controversial one, Chris.
What?
Probably might not make the top 10. Probably wouldn't.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
I think that is quite controversial.
Well,
I've been thinking about my kind of my goatee and.
I beg your pardon?
My goatee.
Your
game
goatee
of the year. Not my goatee. I'm not going to have a goatee.
I was like, okay. I was like, where's this going?
Yeah, I'm not pulling a shroud. Don't worry. But yeah, I think it's in the running for my game of the year.
Okay.
In a weird way. But hey, we'll go through some other stuff and then maybe we can discuss what we think of what was good and what wasn't. But anyway, but yeah, other games that came out in April. Resident Evil 3 remake. Fucking smashing the remakes, fellas. So Resident Evil 3 remake kind of well received, but turns out that game is fucking short. I think some people were mentioning they could finish it in about 2.5 to 3 hours, which is insane.
Yeah, it's such a weird one, right? Where obviously building on the foundations that Resident Evil 2 had laid down, it was so strong in so many departments. Fundamentally, it still looked good, it still played well, and as far as I was aware, having not played the original, it was a fairly accurate representation of what Resident Evil 3 was going for back in the day and its depiction of some of the story elements and with Nemesis as a villain, but it just kind of came and went. And I think it was because it was short and it had a few other issues, it ended up being in that sort of like 8 out of 10 range, if you would sort of aggregate reviews, that meant that it didn't have the staying power of a Resident Evil 2, the kind of you've got to play this of a Resident Evil 2, but also wasn't disastrous enough to stick in our mind as a disappointment or a flop. Just kind of came and went.
Yeah.
I think the Resident Evil 2 had used up a lot of the that sort of like nostalgia for remaking games and doing that. And so once you've had a taste, it's kind of hard to live on that again, isn't it? Like, well, because we covered Resident Evil 2 a lot. I think we talked about it a lot.
We played the whole thing on stream at ATG.
Yeah, but then 3 did just kind of fizzle, which is interesting and odd. But
yeah,
do you know what? I didn't even look at 3 because I haven't even played like 2 yet, and I was like, well, I need to play 2 before I play 3.
Yeah. Oh, the Alex Jones method.
You got to do it. You have to do it.
Well, if the rumors are to be true and to be believed, the confirmed rumors, we're going to be seeing a Resi 4 remake very soon. So who knows?
Why would you not if you were them?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they will.
It's like that Nintendo meme where they're holding up the 3DS and money's coming out of it, and they're just laughing at each other, saying it prints money. It's like, yeah, it does. Fucking hell. But yeah, another game that came out.
If that prints money, what does the Switch do? Shit gold bars.
Yeah, exactly, dude. Fucking hell, yeah. Another game that came out was Gears Tactics, fellas, which I think Jamie is the only one that's played it out of us.
Oh, I haven't played it yet.
It's a good game. It's a good game. I didn't finish it. It's probably too long and doesn't mix up the gameplay enough. There's not enough variety to to warrant that length. But it's a solid tactics game if you really want an XCOM style experience in your life, which I don't, so I stopped. But some people might.
Yeah.
Game Pass and that.
Yeah, Games Pass. That's the big kind of success story of this year, I guess, is Games Pass and all the games that they've been bringing in. But
yeah. Especially...
Yeah.
Is that when we started to get called shills because we kept talking about Games Pass
probably
every week?
around that point, yeah. Well, because if you look at it, like Ori would have been a Game Pass thing, Gears Tactics would have been a Game Pass thing. There's things we haven't mentioned here, like how we discovered momentarily games like Sea of Thieves thanks to Game Pass.
Yeah.
So yeah, March and April, sort of early lockdown months, were definitely Game Pass shill months for us.
But I think it was less a shill than we were doing more PSA. Like, hey, if we're going to be locked down, this is a fucking great way to get your hands on shit ton of games.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
You know,
and it still is.
Yeah, it still is. Okay, guys, the most interesting thing for me that happened in April, even more interesting than Final Fantasy VII Remake, was that Sony revealed the DualSense controller for the PlayStation 5, without revealing the PlayStation 5, just the controller, which obviously led to our infamous DualSense bet on whether or not the DualSense could, on the DualShock.
No, the bet wasn't. The bet
was the
bet then. I thought it was later.
It might have been later, actually.
Because it was when Sony released the information about the backwards compatibility. I don't think that was tied into the date of the.
I actually don't remember.
It might have been. I might be wrong about that. I'm not sure of the actual date of the bet. I don't think it was that early in the year.
I think it might have been because didn't we have that bet before Last of Us Part 2? I feel like we did.
Oh God, I don't. Someone in the chat, in the comments,
I'm
watching this will know. They will have documented who said what on what date. If anyone in the comments on YouTube can tell us what month was it that we made the original bet.
Yeah. But look, so they revealed the DualSense, which obviously are our first glimpse at almost the design direction that they were taking the PlayStation 5.
Mate, there was rage off the back of this controller reveal. Like, people losing their minds because it was white. Like, what have you done? Do you know what? It's friggin' gorgeous. I love the DualSense.
Gorgeous, even.
Friggin' gorgeous. The DualSense 5, that's not 5. The DualSense controller is easily my favorite controller of all time in the console sphere now.
Nice.
Look, I have one. I have one right here, sitting here, and it feels lovely.
They are damn nice controllers. I've got to say, like, I can't really remember what my first take was. I think it was more positive than negative. But no matter what you think about what it looks like, which is, I guess, what we were reacting to at the time, and Chris, again, not to rub salt in the wounds, but this thing is a really nice feeling controller, and when you play games that take advantage of everything it can do, it works. It really works.
Yeah, well, there we go. It slaps, as the youngsters say.
Do you want to know what this is? Do you know what I've not heard anyone mention this year? Anything about the Xbox controller?
Because it's the same, more or less, right?
It's the same. Yeah, I think
exactly.
No, but I think
it's non-memorable, not mentionable, irrelevant.
Well,
I think that's maybe a little bit of a harsh take. I think it just does what it needs to do without any fanfare. So it's almost at this point middle of the road, right? Like, not good, not bad. It does what it does, and look, the Xbox One controller as a blueprint was a very good controller. I preferred it over the PlayStation 4 controller. I still do. So it's not like it's bad at all. It's just
they haven't done anything.
That doesn't have anything to put in the headlines, right?
It's representative of Microsoft or their tactics as well, right? Which is that all these things are going to coexist and everything's going to work together. They haven't done some big step forward next generation controller that means that there's no backwards compatibility with previous controllers on next gen games, because they want everything to work. You know, they released those Elite controllers. They released those adaptive controllers for, people with handicaps and so on and so forth. They want all that stuff to work, and it does.
Yeah, you can use your Xbox One controller on your Series X.
Yeah, that is one nice thing they've done, which is to give people the option to be accessible, maximally accessible.
The net result, though, is you end up in a weird situation where, not to jump ahead again, where PS5 has Astro's Playroom and Demon Souls and games like that are PlayStation 5 only, exclusive to that console.
Yeah.
Xbox in theory, doesn't have the opposite, where there won't be any Series X exclusive games. The only issue is we don't have a good example of that, because the game that would have made the best example of that, as we will get to later, didn't come out this year.
Yeah, what a fucking shame.
Fucking Christ.
Or maybe not a shame, as...
no.
Don't say it.
No, because listen, I feel that 2020 was very much a... It was a lesson. Let's put it that way. It was a lesson that we need to learn, and it was a lesson that we should have learned many years prior. But hey, you know what? If ever there was a year to learn that lesson, it was this year. But we'll get to it, all right? But in May, fellas, we had 3 interesting releases, all starting with the letter M. You care to take any guesses?
I can read them.
Yeah, I don't know if it's much of a guessing game for us.
Fine. Pull the curtain back. Yes, we have a document of all of the fucking stuff in front of us.
Okay. What if? I mean, I'm looking at this. The other thing I'm seeing about this list is that maybe there's one obvious choice for each of us to talk about. So what if we just did it that way?
All right, sure. So then go on, Jonesy. You do the first one.
Cool. Sure. Maneater was a game about a great white shark in the bayous of. I guess it's what's the name of the state or the
America?
The town? No, what's the place?
The state of America.
Oh, what is it called? I can't remember.
New
Orleans. Is it
New
New
Orleans.
Orleans? New Orleans.
New Orleans.
Where you play as a little tiny sharky thing, and then you eat lots of fish and alligators and fight, and gradually level yourself up. Do you know what? A very fun game. Something I did play and I did stream and I enjoyed. It wasn't something I went back to yet. I can't say I will never jump in there again, because it's kind of a pick up and put down game. You can have a bit of fun with it and enjoy it.
I would tend to disagree with that, Jonesy, because if it was purely a pick up and put down game, you would have picked it up and put it down multiple times by now. I mean, it came out in May, dude.
Oh, he's done him.
The problem with this year was, despite the fact that it was kind of a bit choppy and a lot of games got delayed and stuff, I feel like I've been playing games solidly all year. There's always been something to play, always been like big games to tide you over until other games came out. And I think specifically with this one, it was a game that came out the next month, which meant that I didn't play any more of Maneater. And also, I played every game that came out this month. I played...
Well,
not all of them, but
in a roundabout way. Because I guess to jump ahead to the one that maybe I can shine some light on. May was also the month where 2K's weird rollout of what would eventually be a Mafia trilogy began. But the reason it was weird was because while Mafia 2 and Mafia 3 Definitive Editions arrived in May, Mafia Definitive Edition did not.
Didn't.
But still, I took the opportunity to replay Mafia 2, which it turned out was still Mafia 2. Chris, over to you.
Over to me. So I don't know how this happened, but I got shafted in with
Chris,
Minecraft
this was your
Dungeons.
game of the year, admit it. This was your game of the year.
Yeah, my game of the year, Minecraft Dungeons. I don't know, we played this on stream. I don't remember whose stream we played it on.
Steph's, I think.
I thought it was yours, Chris.
Maybe.
Oh, was it?
Maybe.
I don't know.
But yeah, I mean, we played it on stream. It was like a very stripped back action RPG title. But the thing is, it was free on Games Pass. So again, it was kind of one of those things. It's like, yeah, sure, I'll play that. Why not?
It was a very limited experience. I think that was the problem with Dungeons. It wasn't. I think you play it once and you play it for long enough, and there's no reason to ever go back.
Well, it's weird, right? Because obviously Minecraft is a fucking worldwide phenomenon, from like children to adults, etc. But it does seem that Minecraft Dungeons is probably more aimed at the younger side of that audience, right?
Maybe. I don't know for sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think you have to be a little bit older to understand sort of like weapons and like the action mechanics.
But it's so dumbed down. Like it does it really.
But Minecraft is literally a game about putting down blocks and building stuff.
It's about the magic of.
Whereas Dungeons is like a Diablo clone with loot and leveling and XP and item rarity and so on and so forth. I don't know.
Yeah, I kind of feel like the Minecraft is one of those games that the normal game is one of those games that it's not about the game in itself. It's more about what the people or the players do with it.
Yeah.
And I think the issue for me of Dungeons was it's the total opposite. You can't do
only
anything
one
except
thing to
exactly
do.
what the game wants you to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's kind of a weird thing to mix with.
It was literally, we played it on that one stream, and I was like, yeah, cool. I'm done with this game.
Maybe
nice.
for you too.
I got everything I needed to out of it. Like, fine. Thank God I didn't pay money for it.
I went back and finished it.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah, with Steph. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, good for you.
Well, you know what? I finish what I start.
Yeah, I don't. I do not have the time or the patience.
You're honest about it.
2020 is seeing me going more towards the Jonesy side of things, so I don't even have
How you've always been toward my side.
Imagine if I told you that in March, like, hey, Chris, not only are you going to go into lockdown and be unemployed through a lockdown, but you're also going to finish fewer games than you've finished.
No, I would not have believed you, honestly. And
you'd be fuming.
Even looking back at this year in review, I'm like, I can't believe I didn't finish that.
I can't believe you've done this.
Oh, fuck, I can't believe you've done this. No, I think the difference is that in previous years, obviously I knew how much time I had. It was quite obviously laid out to me. So when I selected what games to play and finish, I was a lot more selective on it. Whereas 2020 was a lot more kind of scattershot and unknown and shit coming in and out, and it's just a bit of a jumble. But anyway, in March we also got, was it March? What month are we in, fellas? May.
We're in May.
Yeah, in May we also got a glimpse at Unreal Engine 5 playing a real-time demo running on the PlayStation 5, which was kind of cool. You know, I know a lot of aspiring devs on our Patreon Discord were very interested to see what they had going, and they did have some really cool tech. Everything looked very impressive, and obviously, our first glimpse of anything running on a PlayStation 5 was like, this is pretty cool.
Yeah, it was exciting at the time, I remember.
It was pretty exciting. Have we heard anything about Unreal Engine 5 since then? No. But hey, that's just how it goes.
Next year will be the year, I'm sure.
Yeah, 2021's the year. But hey, fellas, CD Projekt Red in the news, because, you know, everybody's favorite European games company, because it was revealed that they surpassed Ubisoft to become Europe's most valuable video game company. Not bad for those, those few Polish people in their mom's basement cranking out games.
Jonesy, as a shareholder, could you tell us whether or not they are still Europe's most valuable video game company?
They're still doing very well, to be fair to them. They are worth probably... Do you know what? I just opened the app to see where they're at, and they just dropped. As it loaded, oh my God, it's dropping more. Literally,
is it dropping in real time? That's amazing.
For anyone listening, this isn't a bit or a joke. Jonesy does actually own CD Projekt Red stock, or CD Projekt stock.
I have a measly 3 shares in CD Projekt.
Wow.
No, stop saying that. Just tell people yes. Just say
Jonesy,
yes. I'm a shareholder.
Do you know what? This is the thing. This is why I own it, is because it will bounce back, and we'll talk about them obviously a bit later. But I, for one, think that maybe it's a little bit crazy for a company that have made 2 games and are living on the.
They made more than 2 games, but yeah, sure.
Well, okay, 2 games any of us think about or talk about. But at this point, sorry, they had 2 games. I think it's kind of mad, you know, that they surpassed Ubisoft before Cyberpunk even came out. It's kind of insane, really.
Yeah,
it is pretty insane.
I think it's a testament to the hype of Cyberpunk and, just the strength of The Witcher 3 that all of this kind of happened, you know?
Yeah,
I think this. I don't think the success of Gwent hurt them at all either. I think that as a little stopgap kind of gave everyone, especially streamers, it was quite popular, wasn't it, on streams, and a lot of people playing it. I think it's that sort of gave people a little bit of a little boost and thought, oh wow, this is they're going to put out the best game we've seen ever.
It only just missed out on this recap because it was kind of like the lines were blurred between which year it took place in, but obviously the Witcher on Netflix ended up being a huge deal and ended up doing wonders for the game in terms of sales and sort of concurrent numbers. So I wonder if there was this thinking at the time of, hey, not only is Cyberpunk set to be just an astronomical release, but they're also able to then fall back on a game that might have established itself as one of the biggest fantasy RPGs, if not the biggest fantasy RPG in the world.
Was it this year that the Witcher came to Switch? Was it?
No,
was
that was last year, late last year.
End of last
year.
For
Christmas.
Because it definitely went all Skyrim and just started appearing everywhere.
So it's a good strategy. Yeah,
it is. It's understandable in some respects. At the same time, it's kind of crazy, but you know, it is what it is.
Well, heading into June, fellas, maybe the most important month of the year, because one of the biggest games of the year came out in The Last of Us Part 2.
Yeah.
Not without its controversy.
What a month that was.
Crazy. Absolutely mental.
Insane.
What a roller coaster of a month, too.
Yeah, pretty much.
I've seen some people are trying to even liken the release of Last of Us Part 2 with Cyberpunk, because they were talking about the fact of, being really strict with reviewers and what they're allowed to show, and the fact that they're not allowed to show large parts of the game before release. I think in the case of Last of Us Part 2, completely understandable in my opinion.
But if you're trying to shield like story elements, then 100%.
Exactly, yeah.
If you're trying to shield performance issues, then yeah, it's entirely different.
It's completely different.
But like I said, yeah, it's not without its controversy, because yes, there were some embargoes on what you could show, and people kind of took that the wrong way. I think a couple of months prior, they had the leaks, the story leaks leaked onto YouTube, like what was actually happening in that game and the early parts with some beloved characters. There was obviously all the SJW stuff around the game, and there's a trans woman in there and all of this stuff. It's like, well, come on, guys.
Oh, I forgot about all that stuff. Obviously, which turned out to be bollocks, and then it just everyone stopped talking about it.
Say what you want about The Last of Us Part 2. It's quite obviously like a linchpin in the year where things kind of were building up to it and things kind of fell off after it as well. It was a very kind of integral part of what made 2020 in gaming terms. We even recorded a spoiler cast, our second spoiler cast on the Patreon about The Last of Us Part 2, and I think it is the longest video we have ever made. We also recorded it on the hottest day of the year, where we were absolutely sweltering, but we managed to get through it, and I think we picked apart that game and dissected it from pretty much every possible angle you can think of, good and bad.
I could have gone longer on that.
Yeah, but I think we were just talking around in circles at that point.
Probably, yeah.
But yeah, not to say that, like, at least from my perspective, I still don't love the game, but I did finish it, and I do think it's an important game. But yeah, why don't you guys give your kind of like thoughts on it? Because this is a big one, right? This is a cornerstone of 2020. Oh, don't all rush at once, please.
Okay, I'll do it. I'll be brief. I thought it was very brave in some respects of what they did in the story. I think I can see why they did what they did. I can also see why people were annoyed, but I think you're always going to have that of anything that's story driven. You're always going to have people who aren't happy with the story when you've got millions of people that play something and they're all invested and they have ideas about what's going to happen, etc., etc. I think you're never ever going to please everybody. A phenomenal game. Not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. Like it could have done more. It could have advanced the genre more. It could have been a little bit more experimental. But I think a phenomenal 25-hour experience that I thoroughly enjoyed and is my game of the year. I think pretty easily.
Interesting. Yeah.
I largely just echo Jonesy's thoughts. Really, I think it's so strange to try and look back on The Last of Us Part 2 within the context of everything that was going on around the game at the time. And I think now with hindsight, whether this is the right thing to do or not is up for discussion. But I find it easier to view that game in a vacuum and remember what I was going through and what I was feeling, especially as someone who, played and finished that game in 3 or 4 days on pretty much a sort of a total media blackout and was just ignoring everything else going on. And the result was that I just had a phenomenal time with it. I think I was actually perhaps more positive on the gameplay and what they hadn't changed than some people were. I understand criticisms about how it's maybe a little bit too rooted in the design that was very prominent in the previous generation, and maybe we should have been moving away from. I get that, but I didn't care that much. I thought there were other improvements that mattered more to me.
Yeah,
and just from a sort of a writing and storytelling and performance standpoint, And I don't want to. It's not necessarily any one of those that you pick out. It's when all three come together to deliver something that becomes meaningful in ways that you're not necessarily used to in the medium. That's what really always worked for me in the first Last of Us and the second one. And I think there are some people out there that are really critical of story decisions, and that's totally fine.
Put my hand up.
There are some people out there who are needlessly critical of the story itself and the writing itself in ways that I don't agree with. I remember seeing one take, maybe on Reddit, maybe on YouTube, saying that if you transcribe The Last of Us 2 into a book, it would be the worst book of all time. People who think that way, I just can't see eye to eye with them.
I don't know what that means. Like,
I don't know what it means either. There are some people who think that all of a sudden revenge stories are like, it's like, hang on a second, some of the best pieces of media of all time, whether it's novels or TV shows or films or whatever, are revenge stories. Like, let's not pretend that they're like one-dimensional all of a sudden.
Yeah, I love the fact that people were dissecting the game so much that they looked at. There was a poster on the wall or some shit where it was Abby's training routine, and they're like, Abby could never get as big as she got simply by doing those exercises.
Those people are beyond help. But again, like it's that for as much as I understand some of the criticisms of either story moments and story choices or the writing itself, for me, the thing that was the strength of The Last of Us Part 2 and has been the strength of some of Naughty Dog's other work is when that writing and those performances and the quality of their performance capture and the quality of their tech to deliver these just stunningly detailed, gorgeous cutscenes that allow all those other elements to sort of like combine. That's where the game really shines for me, and I found it very effective, and I really enjoyed my time with it.
It's almost novel now to remember playing a fantastic game that you get incredibly stressed with because that's what the game intended, as opposed to being incredibly stressed with a game and that's not what was intended.
Yeah, for technical issues. I think looking back on my experience with The Last of Us Part 2 is probably more positive than how I felt when I was going through it. I didn't like the story choices whatsoever, and I don't think I still do. So, you know,
the story or the presentation of the story? Were you
both?
More
Both.
Okay.
I just felt that there were big issues in terms of that. Not to bang on the drum, and I don't want to go into it too much, but obviously there's that whole issue about the ludonarrative dissonance. About like, killing's bad. Oh, but you only get to kill people. But fine, whatever. Like, it's a game. I'm not getting into it, Jim. I'm just saying, like, you know.
Yeah, but
it is a thing.
You don't get to say we're not getting into it. But here's all these statements I'm going to make that you will obviously disagree with.
Okay, no, fine. If you want to get into it,
how this works.
It's this. Is if you really want to have a moral to the story that you're trying to speak about, especially in such a high profile game where the big impact of it is the story and these lessons, is that I'm not saying necessarily that you should be able to have a stealth option throughout the game where you don't kill anyone, right? But it felt a bit heavy-handed one way over the other of saying killing is so bad and this is the person and they've got names and they're calling out for each other. But they didn't, it's almost like they put all their attention in that side of it, but they didn't put their attention into the actual gameplay of it to make it kind of cohesive. It just felt like there were two different paths on how they were making the game to play and how they were making the story. And I think that there could have been an opportunity to have improved upon that.
Okay. I don't know to what extent we can get into it, but yeah, like
hey, we went through it. I disagree.
That's the thing. We've done it all before. Done it all before. My only thought there, and I'll say it quickly, is that ludonarrative dissonance is when Nathan Drake kills 50,000 pirates and then starts laughing and cracking jokes. The characters in The Last of Us 2 are never presented to be or meant to be perceived as good people, which is why I don't think it's ludonarrative dissonance, in my opinion.
Potentially, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I can see that perspective for sure.
And in fact, the switch of The Last of Us Part 2, in some respects, hinges on the fact that you've got to the point with that first character that maybe you don't see as eye to eye to them as you used to because of what they've done by that point in the story.
Yeah.
But again, now we're getting into
Now we're getting into it.
Sorry, folks.
I will say this, though.
Spoiler cast again.
Yeah. I will say this, though. Last of Us Part 2 probably had my most my favorite set piece of any game this year, for sure.
Oh, can you tell us? Is it a spoiler?
It's I'll tell you the mission name is called The Descent.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I can't remember which one that is.
So that's where you're playing as Abby, and you're going down this skyscraper, apartment block building, really tall building, and it's probably the most horror genre that The Last of Us does in its entirety of its game. The horror elements of that just felt so fucking on point. Yeah, it was good.
I shit myself playing that game so many times.
Yeah. Other big game releases, a massive one actually, but not for any of us three, I don't believe, is Valorant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How weird! Like, it's just so odd to me that
I can't believe it came out in June. Like, it feels like it was, because it's still something that I feel I want to get into, but.
See, that's where you and me are different. I'm glad you've got that kind of that side to you that's curious, but I have no curiosity around games like Valorant now.
Right. So that being obviously Riot's CS:GO meets Overwatch competitive esports FPS game, which people are apparently loving. Who knows?
Seems like it's still going. Yeah.
Are they loving it?
Yeah, I think they're loving it.
Just because you're not.
No, I was going to say, like, Valorant was a weird one for me because I think I remember at the time saying that this game's not really going to do much, and they're trying to, because it looked to me like they'd effectively tried to mash together a number of other different battle royale games, and they were trying to almost like game the system by going, we'll take this from these different games, smash them all together, and make a great game. And then it did seem to kick off for a bit. Like, you had a lot of big streamers who were playing it.
Yeah.
But I'd be interested to see the stats and stuff about how people are playing it, because it seemed to just die away a lot. Although I do still see people stream it. It seems almost more like a game to stream and watch rather than. Do you know what I mean? I don't really hear anybody talk about how many people are playing it.
Well, how many people do you hear talk about playing CS:GO?
Or you could do quite a lot when people talk about stats for games and how many, the numbers are always getting up about it being a big game.
No, I'm kind of with Chris.
I think Valorant for me just seems like I'd be interested to know how it's done this year.
I could look up the numbers for any of these games, but I can't remember the last time the numbers for CS:GO or for Overwatch or PUBG. I can't remember the last time any of them surfaced naturally.
Yeah,
you never hear about how well they're doing.
I will tell you now.
This is a game that came out. This is a game that came out 6 months ago. I'd expect it to be more like Overwatch. You couldn't get away from for like the first. I don't even know.
But I think we're just not in the circle, Jonesy. We're not in that League of Legends, Riot, CS:GO, Overwatch circle. But I can tell you now that Valorant is currently, as we're recording now, got 44.6 thousand viewers on Twitch at number 10 in its browse.
But again, that's kind of what I'm saying. Like, I hear about it a lot and I see it a lot on Twitch and streamers streaming it. But I'd be interested to know the figures on how many people are playing it. Like, I don't know how. I don't know. I'd just be interested to see how it's doing, because it does seem like people like it. But again, it's almost like a game people seem to watch.
I think the difference is that.
But it could be that I'm not in that world.
Yeah, I think it's that, and I think the difference is that it established itself so quickly that it's just there now.
It felt like it was forced on everyone. Like, in a weird way. I was getting Valorant rammed down my throat, and I'm not in that world. And so it was kind of odd to me at the beginning.
But that's just the marketing cycle, right? And then the marketing cycle ends, and then you don't hear about it.
Yeah, exactly. Right, exactly. But don't get me wrong, it's nowhere near as bad as some games and how forced down your throat they are. But it'd be interesting to see the stats for that and how many people have been playing it this year, for sure.
Yeah. Well, anyway, another game that came out, much to my enjoyment, was Command & Conquer Remastered Collection, which was Command & Conquer 1 and Command & Conquer Red Alert.
You streamed a bit of Red Alert, if I'm not mistaken.
I did, and that is a very good game, even though it is very aged. It's a pure nostalgic hit and nothing else, but yeah, it's quality. I really like that. But yeah, what else? Microsoft announced the closure of Mixer July 22nd. And then for some reason transitioned all of their partners to Facebook Gaming.
Yeah.
So I think that was the last time that I heard anything about Facebook Gaming in the news.
Same, actually, probably. Like, if I'm being honest, but the whole thing was just such a mess, especially like when you consider the poaching that they'd been doing prior of people like Ninja and Shroud and the dollar values associated with some of those contracts that those guys were placed on, everything around what happened to Mixer this year was a real shame for what a lot of people who used it said was a kind of decent platform.
Yeah, and I think it's a bit of a shock to the system for those people on that platform, because I don't think they got a lot of kind of prior warning, as it were.
Yeah.
But, talking about streaming, that was when Dr. Disrespect got permanently banned from Twitch.
Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun.
That long ago, blimey.
Yeah.
June, I know. Crazy.
It is kind of mad. I mean, I really feel bad for Dr. Disrespect. It doesn't seem like he's bounced back at all. Yes, I mean, he's back on YouTube with I think he had a peak of 510,000 concurrent viewers on his fucking stream, which is insane. Absolutely insane.
Yeah.
But
very good.
He's good at what he does, People will follow him wherever he goes. And I think I
was going to say, who'd have thought back then in June, with all the speculation and how deep we kind of got going down the rabbit hole on Dr. Disrespect and what happened, that by the end of the year we still wouldn't know.
Oh yeah, still don't know why he was banned. But remember, there was all those things of like,
I couldn't have taken it.
He's going to start his own streaming platform with Ninja and Shroud, and he's just on YouTube. Fuck it. And in hindsight, that's probably the move that makes the most sense, right?
Similarly, if he'd have come out and said, "Oh, it was boring, but it's happened, and now I'm just going to be on YouTube," that would have sucked, because I enjoyed those weeks of.
It was a roller coaster, dude. Yeah, it was great. I enjoyed it.
He knew weeks before. He knew in the last stream. This is the second he received this message saying this. It was all that stuff was wicked.
There are only 2 times this year that I remember like putting my phone down for an hour and coming back to around 100 messages, maybe even more. I won't say what the second one was because.
I know what it is.
But the first one was absolutely Dr. Disrespect. So if you want to use that as a way to gauge, how big a news story was, then it's up there.
Well, I think it's just a case of like, at this point, like getting the middle of the year, right? At that point, we were so fucking tired of all the lockdown and all that shit that we were just any form of interesting entertainment that could go absolutely fucking mental.
True.
Like you were like, hell yeah, let's fucking go.
True.
But yeah, all right, we're coming up to the 2-hour mark very soon, so let's fucking bulldoze through, right? Because Sony unveiled the PlayStation 5 design and several new and upcoming games. Dark Souls.
First reactions were interesting.
Yeah, I think the design was quite divisive. Wouldn't necessarily say that the divisiveness has died down that much, but I think people have just gotten used to the look of it. It still does look like a router. Fine.
I think it's the thing. When it's sitting in front of you, you can just deal with it.
Yeah.
But when they released the images of it, it was like, what have they done? Like, it just looks like a router. I think we said it when we first they did the reveal. We literally said, "What the fuck?" And then all the memes came out about and because of course by that point we didn't know size, we didn't know scale, we just knew look, and that added a different flavor to it once we learned about that as well.
Well, that was the time when people took the official screenshots and then they measured the size of the disc port, for lack of a better word, and compared it to the Xbox Series X and compared it to the fucking PS4 and did those like side-by-side comparisons, and it was like, holy shit, this thing is the biggest console ever made.
And it fucking is. Fucking massive.
It is. It's quite funny.
It's big.
Man. Yeah.
It's a big boy. But I like it.
Well, you enjoy it, buddy. You deserve it. Going into July, a couple of big game releases. We had F1 2020, we had Carrion, the remaster of Destroy All Humans, which that's all fine, but a big game that came out was Ghosts of Tsushima.
The joke that never gets old.
I love it, man. Well, I love Asa Akira.
I don't think he can not say Ghost of Tsushima without putting Asa Akira in there.
Just, she's so prominent, fellas.
I reckon he's done a deal with Asa Akira that he gets paid £1 every time he mentions her name.
I wish.
If Chris did a deal with Asa Akira, I don't think he would take payment in that form. I think there'd be other clauses.
Other arrangements.
Yeah.
I think his wife sorted the contract.
Yeah.
Yeah. No comment.
Yeah, no comment. But yeah, Ghost of Tsushima, which is a game that I still haven't played and I really want to play, but I probably will not play it just because of my backlog and because of how long reports of the game have been coming out on it, which is a bit of a shame. But I don't want to have to I don't know. I don't want to start a game and be like, let me put it this way. I never intentionally get a game knowing that I'm not going to play it, right? Like finish it.
Right.
There's always that intention. But I know that if I had to pick, at least now, if I had to pick up Ghost of Tsushima, I just would not be able to finish it. So,
which is so surprising because it was the People's Choice Game of the Year. So
it was the People's Choice Game of the Year.
You don't want to pick up the Game of the Year as voted for by the players.
This is a comfy top 5 in my Game of the Year.
Okay,
very good game. A very good game.
Actually, is a game that I know that I will be receiving.
Yes.
A few,
very nice.
Well, within the next few weeks, because my brother every year says, "What do you want for your birthday?" And my birthday is just after Christmas. And I always ask for a computer game from him, and I said, there is a game I would like called Ghost of Tsushima.
Nice.
And he messaged me to say, I've got it. So I was like, thanks.
You see, I never get games for like Christmas or birthdays or anything. I get like biltong.
Do people ask you what you want, though?
Yeah.
And you say biltong.
I said biltong.
Yeah, that might be why you're getting biltong. It's just a guess, but...
Yeah, no. I said to my brother, can I please have this game for my birthday?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Like, as an example, oh, Chris, what do you want for Christmas? So, like, PlayStation 5?
Well, so, you got to, within reason, right? Like, of all the... I didn't get asked a huge amount of times, but, like, I know my brother asked me what I want for Christmas.
Yeah.
Game. My mum's boyfriend asked me what I want for Christmas. Game. My aunt asked me what I want for Christmas. Game. My mum asked me what I want for Christmas. Game. Between the 3 of them, the 4 of them even, I've basically got so many PS5 games that I even got some I don't want.
No, nice.
Now that is called efficiency.
Yeah, my majority of things I say to people when they ask me is a game.
Wow.
I'm often... So for me, it's Call of Duty, Black Ops, and Ghost of Tsushima.
I'll be honest with you guys. Usually when it's what you want, it's almost like, oh, well, I need some new RAM for my laptop, or I need a new mouse. Or
Jesus, I would not trust anybody like in my family to buy anything like that.
Oh no, I send them links. I'm like, this is the one.
Oh, right.
In case you were wondering. But anyway,
do you know what? This is I've played everything on this list, which I think is the first time for one of these months we've had.
That's really good. Yeah, you streamed Destroy All Humans, didn't you?
No, I haven't. What am I saying? I haven't played Ghost of Tsushima. How did I just immediately forget the one game we were talking about?
You know you're going to imminently.
That's why it messed with my brain.
Okay, but a really weird thing that happened in that month, right, in July, was a game that was released in 2018 started to pick up in popularity. You may have heard of it. It's called Among Us, which, I don't know, it's been absolutely mental how popular this game has become, even to this day. The surge, which many attributed to COVID-19, saw it reach 3.8 million concurrent viewers, fellas. And the game itself has exceeded 100 million downloads. To be fair, it's only like £3 or whatever. So
I mean, yeah, it's cheap and accessible and it runs on anything, but still.
Yeah. What I love is the fact that a sequel was announced, but then they're like, it's fine. People are still throwing money at us for the first one, so let's cancel the sequel for now. I'm sure they'll get around to it.
It's only the wrong time as well. Like, why? I'm sure... maybe they'd already thought about it, but yeah, if a game like pops off in May of July, why you would even entertain a sequel until at least a year, 18 months after the fact? Like, it doesn't matter that it was released in 2018. No one played it. Like, just let everyone squeeze that sponge until every last drop has come out of it.
Yeah, and I think these days
consider a sequel.
Yeah, I think these days for games as a service, sequels actually tend to make less and less sense. Whereas
because they have been doing updates, haven't they? They released a new map and they've released some new stuff.
And that's all you got to do to keep people engaged. Like, sure, okay, you could say, oh, but a sequel is another way for people to pay money to buy another thing. But actually, a smarter way of games as a service to make money is through season passes, cosmetics, etc., which is what I think they've kind of egged onto and said, hey, we don't need to put all this money into developing a sequel where we could just do these content drops.
Nah, you know what they need to do, and I think we've already talked about this, that someone else should have done, sell it. You want to get that game to maximum popularity, and you want to go and speak to Microsoft or like friggin' Valve or whoever and go, won 2 awards at the Game Awards, like popping off big time, hasn't been monetized in any way yet. You want to buy it? And then they go, yeah. And then you don't have to think about that game anymore. Move on to the next game, Yeah. Crack on.
Yeah, it's not a bad way of looking at things. And I mean, especially with Microsoft, the way that they've been they haven't really been buying games, but I guess they bought Mojang, which is like Minecraft. They bought Minecraft. Yeah. Anyway,
well, they could sell the studio, right? They could retain a small share of the studio, sell the rest of it to Microsoft, and then say, "Hey, we'll make 20% of whatever you decide to do with it." But they at least walk away with 80% of whatever Microsoft think
that
of
would
that
be
game
the
and
dream,
that studio
man.
worth.
But can you imagine if we had to make like some shitty mobile game that, okay, to be fair, it's not shitty, it's fun. But we had to make some mobile game and it was like, yeah, it did okay, 2 years ago. And we kind of like left it to do its thing. 2 years later, all of a sudden, the sweetheart of Twitch, and you're like, oh, wow, okay, cool.
Yeah. Has Among Us been updated yet so that it includes voice chat in the game?
I think they've got proximity voice chat, no?
I have no idea.
Or is that a mod?
Because for me, like, the one thing that's exciting about Among Us is you can see what they need to do to make that game just keep that wave going, like not having to use Discord, not having to use different chat bot things in order to do it, having the functionality that you can only talk, either in proximity or in a meeting to other people like that. If that stuff was all included, suddenly you remove the barrier to entry, or you can do it on mobile. It's not a pain in the arse.
I know. I do. I tend to agree.
Fellas! I just remembered there was another big game that came out that we didn't really talk about.
Oh yeah,
which was Fall Guys Ultimate Knockout. Came out in February.
Did it?
Yeah.
No, it didn't come out in February.
I thought the beta thing was like around was.
Oh no, it was August. Sorry, it was August.
Fall Guys, we haven't got to it yet. That's why we haven't talked about it.
My bad.
Worried me then.
Well, this is just how screwy this year's been, where everything's kind of coalescing into each other. But anyway, listen, fellas, despite E3, because this was about the time that it would have been out, right? But Sony, Microsoft, EA, Ubisoft, Warner Brothers, et al., they had some digital events of their own, showing off games such as Far Cry 6, Horizon Forbidden West, Resident Evil Village, Hogwarts Legacy, Gotham Knights, Fable. I mean, the list goes on. But yeah, it's kind of mental.
Yeah. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know if this is the future or not, and so maybe it doesn't matter that much.
Yeah.
But I don't know how I felt about this summer's digital events rollout. I'd far rather have a more streamlined, more compact week of back-to-back stuff a la E3 than this weird thing of, oh, maybe the one that's in 4 weeks' time will be good, because this one wasn't.
Yeah.
I agree with you. Yeah.
There was.
That's why I don't think E3 is dead, is because it was a bit messy. Like this year was very messy.
I just don't know how they go back to it, Jonesy. As soon as, like, I can tell you now, PlayStation will never go back to E3.
Probably not. Yeah.
But do you mean won't go back to E3 as in they won't have a formal presence, or do you mean they won't go back to E3 as in do the in that week or 2 weeks to the lead up of E3?
Oh, because I agree with you that most people, they'll do their own stuff, but even so, they'll do their own digital presentation, and it won't be part of E3. That's what I'm saying. But even releasing even releasing it at the same time as E3, I just don't see the draw for them to do that, because you're competing you're shouting against the crowd, right?
You kind of are, but I agree with Jamie that this year seemed kind of odd and messy, and you needed you had the whole Summer Games thing with again, I think it was hosted by Jeff Keighley, where you had a calendar of stuff, and it felt dry before that. You then had this 3-month long period where you had to kind of keep track of what was going on, and it just felt like never ending. And actually, it probably made me miss more stuff and not know where to put my attentions in a lot of respects, because it was should I watch this 2-hour stream from Revolver Digital, or should I watch this like this other thing that comes out of this other place, or should I be paying? Like, I quite like E3's way of.
I'm not arguing with you that I also enjoyed it, but I just don't see it coming back.
I don't mean E3. What do I? Because you know what I mean. I mean like the event and surround E3 and the surrounding events that happen. Like when we actually went to LA and we got to go there. There's a whole load of things that go on outside of E3 itself, and I think that carries on. But I like that E3 event as the pin, as the little thing that combines everything and pulls everything together.
But I think Jamie's right though, even though he's gone as far away from his microphone as he could possibly get in his tiny little room. It's
I'm
easy
not that far at all.
It's easy to come back in a year of review with a document and say these are the major points, like fucking Far Cry 6, Horizon Forbidden West, Resident Evil Village, Hogwarts Legacy, Gotham Knights, Fable, Suicide Squad, this, that, the other. But in reality, when you were living it, it was like a build-up to a presentation that had 1 or 2 of these games in, and everything else was super forgettable.
Yeah,
and presented in the weirdest fucking way ever.
But that's kind of what I mean. Like this year, it felt messy. Like you had to watch a 2-hour event to get one thing that was interesting, whereas E3 at least kind of makes people bring their best sort of game forward, or their best thing, and focus. It just seems to focus them a little bit more. Maybe that's what I kind of mean. Yeah.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens this year. It'll also be interesting to see if we're still on lockdown.
I liked Summer Game Fest. Like, don't get me wrong. I think that they did a
Summer
great job.
Game Fest was the most pointless fucking thing ever.
No, that was the only way that I managed to keep track of everything that was going on. Because they put out a calendar of events, they did like releases and stuff. Like I think that, and they told you where to go to watch stuff. Like without that, I would have been like all over the shop messaging you boys.
Yeah,
going,
I guess so.
I prefer Jeff Grubb's Summer Game Mess, where he was able to scarily accurately predict when most of these things were going to happen. I think it's just that so many of them were bad. Like we all remember that first EA one, which was basically like there were Star Wars Squadrons and then in out Skate 4, but they didn't call it Skate 4 and they didn't have a logo. Yeah. And then Ubisoft's ones were kind of weird, where like the big reveal was Far Cry 5 that had already leaked, and then they did another one where the big reveal was some big downhill racing game, and none of the Ubisoft games we wanted to see were actually there. No Beyond Good and Evil, no Rainbow Six Quarantine, or any of the other games that are still kind of like MIA.
No Splinter Cell, fuckers.
Still no Splinter Cell. Microsoft's one, do you remember that weird one they did first where the big hook was Assassin's Creed Valhalla gameplay, and it was not Assassin's Creed Valhalla gameplay? Like, I think too many of them fucked us over in one way or another, and it left a bad taste in our mouths.
Do you know what I think? Chris said it, like, it's shouting, who wants to, I think he said who wants to be trying to shout against all those other people. I think that your analogy is good, but I think it's wrong for the right reason, which is when you get something like E3, it makes everyone try and shout louder and try and shout in a clear voice. Yeah. But when you kind of had what we had, it was just like a murmur for the whole of summer with little like occasionally. Yeah. I like the shout off. I like getting everyone in the room and trying to beat everyone. And
there was also that weird thing, right, where it was almost that game of chicken between Microsoft and Sony about who's going to reveal, who's going to show their hand. And that was like really fucking annoying.
And when, and this event.
Yeah, and guess what? Now that it's all said and done, no one gives a shit. Like, you shouldn't have... anyway, that's me ranting. Getting a bit Jamie there. All right, going into August. Or have I missed anything? No, going into August.
No, you're good.
Now, this is... Okay, so this is where we get Fall Guys, all right? Which...
yes.
I guess maybe it's because we had got access to Fall Guys beforehand and we streamed it, right? Because we got it before it released. So they did this big kind of like streamer push and influencer push, and we managed to get our hands on some copies. And we streamed it.
Dead before it ever came out. Not going to go anywhere. No one's going to play it.
That was my hot take. And hey,
I said the same thing.
But that's what hot takes are for, Jonesy. We shouldn't be ashamed of that. But
don't forget the other side to hot takes: trash opinions.
Exactly. That's the important one. Maybe Fall Guys didn't stick around as long as majority of people thought. I mean, it's still doing fine. But yeah, they made their money and moved on, right? Like Sony bought them for their PlayStation Plus game the month it released. So, they've made their money. They're laughing all the way to the bank. They're still updating the game. They've had all their interest and they're keeping going on. But I think when we played it, we kind of said, Fall Guys is great, but much like what you said, I guess, about Among Us, I could very clearly see where they needed to take that game to be like one of the all-time great party games. But
Right.
it seems that they're not doing.
God.
They're not listening to me. Guys,
if only either of you two were game developers, you'd have single-handedly taken two of the most successful games of the entire year and made them even more successful.
Yeah, exactly. You can always be better, Jamie. Just remember that.
Millions of dollars left in the table, and who'd have thought that the only secrets to it were two random editors sitting around England.
I think the problem is, and I think what happens is that when you play these games, obviously you have your opinion, and then you're like, oh, I can, if they did X, Y, Z, it would fix it. But of course, what we mean is it would fix it for me.
Yeah, exactly.
So their problem is they have to fix it for millions of people.
Yeah.
And some people.
No, they're doing a good job dealing with those games for the masses of people that play it, for sure. So there you go. A very interesting one. Microsoft Flight Simulator came out, fellas, and this was like,
what a great game.
I was surprised. I'll be honest with you. I was fucking surprised by the reception that this game got.
Yeah, it did kind of blow up.
Yeah,
not the plane or anything, but you know.
No.
Yeah.
Well, because it's such a fucking nerdy thing, isn't it? It's like you're just flying a plane. That's all it is. But it is pretty cool in its own right. And Jonesy, you streamed that with your dad, who is a pilot.
I did. My dad is a commercial airline pilot, and we sat down for like a 2-hour live stream of flying. I can't remember. We flew like
Did you fly to Edinburgh?
London to Glasgow, Edinburgh, maybe. Yeah. No, and it was cool, and it's because actually him telling me this is how you actually do it, and this is what this means, and show it, and did a pretty good job until I nearly crashed it on the right at the end. But that I played a lot more of that game than I thought I would. Once again, thanks to Game Pass.
Stop being such a fucking corporate shill, Jonesy.
Oh,
I'm here. Stop being such a corporate shill.
No, I know, right? Super shield. But I think if people, that game did blow up in a weird way. But one of the reasons for me why it was so captivating was just how good it looked.
Yeah,
it looked absolutely phenomenal. And when you get into that game and fly around, like it's kind of like, oh, that's what it is. It's not exactly a game. It's just a simulator. But I defy anyone to not get into that game and kind of just enjoy the heck out of at least a half an hour of going, holy crap, this game looks incredible. Like,
and the stuff that you can
don't
do.
Get me wrong, I haven't played it in like 2 or 3 months.
Have you heard about the update that's coming out?
No, but I have been waiting for an update.
Jonesy.
It's kind of mental, dude. They're tracking like real-time weather and adding it into the game. So
I thought that was already in it. I thought
like snow and like all that shit. Yeah, like mental shit. Yeah. So like,
that's cool.
If it's snowing in Edinburgh, it'll be snowing in the game.
So I really want is an update with different types of aircraft, because they didn't have any like fighter jets or anything like that. And given how good that game looks and how nice it is to handle those planes, in my mind, I'm like, just let me cruise around in a fast jet. Like that.
But Chris, you didn't tell Jonesy about the feature that I thought you were going to tell him about.
Which one?
Which is,
go ahead.
The VR.
Oh, of course. Fuck yeah.
Oh, they're doing VR.
Yeah. They've added VR in the latest update. It's available now.
I might have to get the VR because I can sit. Do you know what? I could probably set my lighthouses up even without moving all this shit in my room, and I could probably crack on. So I might have to do that.
Yeah, you probably manage it like if you're doing seated gaming, but you've got the head tracking. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, because in a cockpit, you're not getting up anyway. You haven't got to go back get your own coffee. That's what hosties are for.
Yeah. Some more games that have come out. I think the criminally, I don't want to say underrated, but maybe
overlooked.
Yeah. Game of the year for me would be Risk of Rain 2. A fantastic game, single player, an amazing game in co-op. Probably not one for Jonesy because Jonesy just doesn't get roguelites. But I'm
trying this year. I tried really hard.
To your credit, you are trying hard with Hades, which is coming up later.
I wish I enjoyed.
Risk of Rain 2, very fucking good game. And they just recently have announced almost like a roadmap for future updates. And it's exciting, man. That game is a hell of a lot of fun. And I think more people should take the risk of Rain and try it out.
Hey.
It's cool.
Very good.
It's a cool game.
I would like to play it. How much does it cost right now?
It's not very much, I don't think.
When are you next going to stream it? That's the question, Chris.
I'll tell you what, if you pick it up and we can do a co-op, I will stream it like as soon as you're ready.
Okay.
So
Jonesy, are you in or you're in?
I'm in.
There we go.
I literally know nothing about that game other than Chris talks about it a lot.
It's cool, so but it is very much as bad as it can be, where you unlock stuff by dying, essentially. You got to play through the game. You will not beat the game on your first 50 runs, but dying gives you the unlocked progress to get better and get better equipment.
No, that's either like you say, like a roguelike like Hades or whatever.
Yeah,
I'm trying to get down with that.
Hades trained him.
Yeah,
Hades has trained me. Dying is fine. You get a sassy little response to dying. It's fine.
Well, there we go. A couple of other games. Mortal Shell, which is a Souls-like game, which seemed kind of interesting, but I think it's kind of fallen off a lot of people's radar. Spiritfarer, which I don't even remember what that was, to be honest. Wow. Was it like a Wind Waker clone? No. Spiritfarer was the furries on the boat.
It was the furries on the boat.
Oh,
Spiritfarer, one of the best games of the year. You heard it here first, folks.
Is it in your top 10?
Probably not. Top 20, though. Top 20.
Okay, fine. Yeah. And Wasteland 3, which I know a lot of people have had a lot of fun with that as a CRPG. But
yeah,
again, let's chill it. Available on Games Pass.
So is Spiritfarer.
So Spiritfarer.
And so is my Flight Simulator.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Man, kind of crazy. This was the same month that Epic had this weird falling out with Apple, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah, of course.
Where Apple like delisted Fortnite from their store, and then Epic
because they tried to circumvent Apple's thing so that they got more money from everything people purchases and stuff, wasn't it? And Apple were pissed off because they thought you were trying to stitch them up.
Look, to be entirely fair, it's in their terms of service, and you try and circumnavigate something that's as concrete as a terms of service for being on a storefront. I don't blame Apple or Google in the least, and it's kind of weird that Epic Games kind of started to pick this fight, but at the same time, I get why they're picking the fight, but they're also kind of trying to proposition themselves as like, oh, we are the David to the Goliath. But it's the one thing that I loved that Jamie said about Ubisoft and CD Projekt Red and Epic Games and all of these is like, don't kid yourself. It's billionaires fighting with billionaires over scraps. It's like,
yeah,
it is what it is.
Yeah, but it doesn't exist on our level, on our plane of existence,
Yeah.
See, I wonder if Epic thought they were being clever. I don't think they necessarily thought they were picking a fight and thought they were being smart.
Oh, no, they knew they were picking a fight, dude. Come on.
Do you think they did know they were? Oh, okay, maybe. I don't know.
Yes, because I
read of it,
they had that Fortnite trailer, which they literally released on the day that the iOS version of Fortnite was yanked from the platform.
Yeah, the one that was like a mock-up of the famous Apple trailer.
Yeah, the 1984 Apple trailer. So they knew what they were doing. They were
originally before they got pulled. Like I thought back before everything happened.
They pushed their lawsuit. They had it ready to go the day the games got pulled.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, right.
So they had the lawsuit ready and they had the trailer ready. The game got pulled and they're like, cool, fucking, execute Order 66. It's like fucking, they were mental.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. From what I'd read, I thought that what happened was that that was a reactionary, like, okay, let's have the fight. I didn't realize that was a like they already knew they were going to have a fight.
Yeah. And I can tell you that as recently as this month, certain influencers, I should say, were being sent free Fortnite bundles that are still kind of mimicking Apple in their design. I don't know if you guys saw them.
Yeah, so not like it's free, but like, hey, free Fortnite.
Free Fortnite as in like, as in free Nelson Mandela kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah. What else? Oh, Gamescom 2020 went digital because Germany banned all physical events, thanks COVID. Halo Infinite got delayed to 2021 following a negative reception to its gameplay reveal, which looked so kind of trashy. But hey, there you go. And Fall Guys became the most popular downloaded PS Plus game of all time. So much for a game that we say is not really in the conversation anymore, but it clearly is.
Do you know what's fitting? So, off the back of what we were talking about, I actually looked up a few trending things from the year and I was, how they compared. I was surprised to see that Fall Guys wasn't trending as highly as I kind of would have thought it would be. Does seem like a lot of people fell off that. Assuming that the trending Google Trends thing.
Here's a question for you guys, though.
How much people are playing it.
Do you think that Fall Guys being brought to PS Plus on the month of release was detrimental to it? Like, obviously, I'm speaking long term rather than short term.
I would tend to say no.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's accurate or not, but I think
it is weird, though, right? Because you're getting it in the hands of the majority of people, as much people as you can by doing it. But does that kind of minimize its long-term impact or prospects?
I say no because their model was different, right? They have the battle pass or whatever they call it.
Yeah,
the season pass and stuff.
Yeah,
but I think their model just wasn't quite strong enough in that, like, they had all the components, constantly updated game, new maps, a battle pass with cosmetic unlocks along the way, and they didn't push it hard enough. And you didn't feel like, at least I playing the game, didn't feel like I was quite unlocking enough, I was progressing enough, and there was enough variety in what I was doing in every single run.
Yeah.
And I think also some of the criticisms that you two made of the game's multiplayer structure when we first played that beta were also valid and held up, through to that game's release. And it ended up being a weird thing where Season 2 came out, and I was like, okay, but it looks like it's kind of like one new kind of course or set of courses.
Yeah.
And now I can maybe dress up as a Viking or something. I don't know. Whereas like Rocket League, which was of course the archetype for release for free on PlayStation Plus and become the biggest game of all time. Not literally, obviously. Yeah. Was far more, I don't know what the good word is, but like repeatable. It was so much like
right.
Rocket League, almost in the same way you can keep playing FIFA. It doesn't matter if it's the same match of football over and over again. Rocket League, it doesn't matter. It's the same sport. You keep doing it over and over again. Fall Guys didn't have that for some reason.
Yeah. I guess it's like Dota, right?
For me.
Dota's had one map for almost 10 years. Like, come on. Like,
but then Dota's slightly different because I think it's more widely agreed now that all the people who play it have some kind of mental imperfection. Like they're not all there.
Yeah, completely. Completely. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
I think for me the main thing about Fall Guys was and the difference why it's like Rocket League. We've already talked about it in this. Is there's games whereby you make the game. So like football, FIFA, Rocket League, whatever, right? The game's always the same, and then the players make the game. Like Among Us, right? Similar sort of thing.
Yeah.
Fall Guys, at the end of the day, even though there's other people running around, it's still you playing and just on your own and trying to get.
Yeah, it's still very much an A to B kind of thing, right?
Yeah, and if you don't like half of those games that you play in the game, what do they call them? Like they're not maps.
The courses, like Assault Course or whatever.
Yeah. If you don't like half the courses, like the tail grabbing one I don't like that at all.
Yeah,
and if you throw enough of those ones in that you don't like, then you're just going to stop playing it, and it only has to happen a handful of times before you check out the game. Whereas you don't play Rocket League and suddenly go, do you know what? I don't like driving a little car around and hitting a ball. Like it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
If you like the game, you like the game, right?
Yeah. It's a fascinating one. All right, moving on. September.
Bring in team play to Fall Guys.
You'd think that's what it was looking like, but no. Let's not listen to Chris. September brought the release of Hades, Crusader Kings 3. John Babb will be very pleased. Spelunky 2. Marvel's Avengers, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2, Super Mario 3D All-Stars, which made me very happy, Mafia Definitive Edition, and Genshin Impact. Fellas, it actually turns out September was a fucking banger.
Solid month.
So I know you guys have both played Hades.
Yeah.
Jamie, you said it's in contention for your game of the year.
I think I said that at the time. It's certainly still up there. I can say now, I can confirm it would not be my game of the year.
Right.
But I very much like Hades.
Something that I've been meaning to get into as well.
Yeah, I still play it every now and then, to be honest. Every time I open up the Epic Game Store, like this week I've been doing it to collect the free games they're giving out every day. And I'm like, but I could just play half an hour of Hades, and I think it'll always feel that way.
Yeah.
Much in the same way Dead Cells did a couple of years ago, Chris.
Yeah, and that's the way that I feel about Risk of Rain as well. Like, just do a run. Once you completed the run, that's all you need. You're fine. Move on. You know.
Yeah.
But yeah, Crusader Kings 3 was a pretty big release for people that like those kinds of games. Some very interesting things coming out of it, like you could marry a horse, and then your horse could execute your offspring or some shit. I don't know.
Yeah, but I will say, between Crusader Kings 3 and Spelunky 2, two examples of like hugely anticipated sequels that kind of came and went.
Oh, especially with Spelunky 2, dude. Like with Spelunky 1, I mean, I even read the fucking book about
Right, exactly, yeah.
And Spelunky 2 was like, I thought, oh my god, this is going to be fucking mental for everyone. But yeah, it's just kind of like, okay. The last I heard of it was like, oh, Spelunky 1 and 2 is coming to Switch.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I get what you mean. You think there'd be a little bit more fanfare about it.
Yeah, I don't know why it didn't, fall into place. It reviewed well. They did everything right, but it just didn't.
I think I actually heard more about Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 than Spelunky 2.
Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2, damn good game. Was sort of ended up weirdly enough being the game that I signed off my PlayStation 4 with before I transferred everything over to the PS5 and kind of left Tony Hawk's and a bunch of other previous gen games behind. But I had a damn good time with it while I played it. They did a stellar job of making a Tony Hawk's game that feels like what you'd want it to feel like in 2020.
And your guys' thoughts on Super Mario 3D All-Stars, which obviously includes one of the best games ever made, Super Mario Galaxy?
And yeah, well, I was about to make a joke about Super Mario 64 being better than Galaxy, but I wouldn't be able to keep a straight face.
It's just not true.
There are three good games that have not all aged as gracefully as one another, being put in a compilation that is really no frills.
Really no frills. Like, here's the fucking games, you bitches.
Yeah.
But they have. I think they've pushed out a few updates, but I haven't jumped in to see the updates
either.
Yeah.
Not like a low light of the year, but like one of the things that should have been a standout and ended up being like, yeah, cool, yeah, that happened.
I'm just glad that I can play Super Mario Galaxy on my Switch. That's the only reason that I bought that collection. Fuck the other games. It's all I care about.
You need to play. The fact that you've never played them is a little bit like
All right, I'm choosing the order we're doing things, right? So Genshin Impact came out, and I think, like you talk about Genshin Impact, I've heard way more about that than, say, Spelunky 2 or Crusader Kings 3.
Right, yeah,
true. It is a game that maybe a lot of people didn't expect to be as good as it was, being like almost a shameless clone, or seemingly a shameless clone of Breath of the Wild. But yeah, it seems to have held its own and garnered its own fan base, as it were.
Yeah, I guess fair play to. I didn't click with it personally, but
yeah. Jonesy's
the idea
nodding,
was there.
Nodding and smiling.
Yeah, I haven't played any Genshin Impact at all. And the idea of a clone of Breath of the Wild doesn't immediately make me want to rush out and play it either.
Breath of the Wild, one of the best games ever made. What are you talking about?
Yeah, it's great.
But yeah, that brings us to Mafia Definitive Edition, which is the capping off of the Mafia trilogy that was announced back in, what was it, March at this point? But yeah, funnily enough, even though I haven't finished it, but it is on my to-do list for the end of the year. Mafia Definitive Edition is certainly in the running for my Game of the Year for 2020, as surprising as that may sound.
We talked about how weird it was that they did the Mafia trilogy and they released the second and third games. Do you know what? Now that I think about it, actually that was kind of smart, because I played and finished Mafia Definitive Edition and then tried to play Mafia 2. If I'd have actually played Mafia 2 and 3 first, I probably would have been more impressed, and I was already really impressed with Mafia Definitive Edition. So maybe that's why they did it, to be like, no, look how good Mafia Definitive Edition is. But fantastic game, phenomenal, loved it. It's my first play of the first one. Yeah. And I thought it was phenomenal.
I think worth saying that, like, its age is still there. It's still an open world where it only exists to get from A to B, with the occasional police chase. But there's something about clearly there was a lot of love and care put into that Definitive Edition. And even though the game itself was quite simple, there's not not much variance in it other than go here, shoot these people, go there, shoot those people. But something about it just, man, it's the good kind of nostalgia hit that you want from these kinds of things. So yeah, it was right up there for me, for sure. Jamie, what do you think? Oh, sorry, Judge.
Let me just one more thing. I was just going to say, it is, if you want to play a mafia movie in a game,
totally,
that's what it is.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
Yeah. I thought they delivered on just about everything they needed to, right? Like, they took the story that so many people fondly remembered from the original game and they presented it in a way that, you know, was sort of stayed true to the original, but also enhanced it in all the ways you'd expect. And I thought gameplay elements built soundly on Mafia 3's foundations, but also acknowledged what was so unnecessarily bad about Mafia 3, which was that it was big and it was sprawling and it was aimless and it was all side content. It was all filler. Yeah. And they went back to that Mafia 1, Mafia 2 approach, which is like, hey, what if the open world was a little bit more of a set dressing than something that, you know, pushed you to do menial side activities, and it benefited as a result.
Yeah.
Good game, very good game.
It's interesting to play a game where there's no optional side quests, right?
Right.
Where
you literally go from chapter to chapter.
Yeah, this is just the fucking story, fellas. Enjoy the ride.
But what's good as well is that it never puts you in a situation where you feel like you need to start driving around looking for side quests. You're always in a situation whereby there's somewhere to go and you go there. Like, you don't ever feel like, I'm just going to go down that road. It's like, it just doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
Which is quite nice to play in that sort of setting.
Yeah. All right, guys, move. So I've kept this for this point because I think this is a very interesting conversation. But Marvel's Avengers.
Yeah.
After much time, yep. That's exactly. I
mean, that's all the energy I've got for talking about this game. Like, if you'd have told me at the start of the year that Marvel's Avengers would have dominated as much of conversation as it did for us in and out of podcasts, even spoiler casts, I wouldn't have believed you. But here we are.
I think for me, like, I'm still torn about Marvel's Avengers. I think some of the basics were very good. Like, I maintain that some of the way those characters feel and the animations and the way that they play are brilliant and are probably the best I've ever played in that kind of game. Then you put that into the world and what you're doing and how you're doing it, and it just falls to pieces. Like, that for me is the problem with that game. Interestingly, because there's a couple of things that popped on my radar this week around Marvel's Avengers. One of them being, I keep getting smashed with adverts to go back and play Marvel's Avengers, because now you can play as what's her name? Kate Bishop. Play it now for free, no extra cost. And I'm like, okay, and I keep getting adverts for it. So on YouTube. And secondly, I think was that there was a lot of talk around people saying, not a lot of talk, but there was a tweet that then apparently just got talked about ad infinitum, which was someone said how Cyberpunk was being put forward as like you had to refund Cyberpunk because of how broken it was at launch, and people were saying the same should have been true of Marvel's Avengers, which is, I think, fundamentally untrue.
Yeah,
like,
it's not on the same level.
Nowhere near on the same level. Like, it had issues and it had bugs, but it was just a mediocre game, and I don't think they're going to start offering refunds for mediocre games.
Well, I think at the time of recording, I would say that Marvel's Avengers is still I would put it as the biggest failure of the year.
Well, we've already said, haven't we, that there's a chance that they try to relaunch it in 2021 with the next gen updates and some new characters and some new DLC and some new content. It'd be interesting to see, because I feel like I haven't played enough of that game. I would like to play more of it, because I like some of the base mechanics, the base characters and stuff. And I will dip every time they have a new character. I probably will dip in. The problem is I haven't installed it on my PlayStation 5, so maybe I need to do that first.
Well, they delayed the PlayStation 5 version, which would have been an interesting reason to at least reinstall it, but they're not even keen on giving us reasons to try and peek at that game again, let alone play it.
It is this year's Anthem. So
yes, probably.
Yeah, come on, like a major games as a service that
kind of goes.
Players have absolutely deserted, and they need to go back to fix it. Like I
don't think the fixing it's going to get will be as dramatic as Anthem's.
Yeah, sure.
I think what Jonesy said there about it being a mediocre game, I think that's where the conversation kind of begins and ends for me. Yeah. And I know that's a reductive way to to look at such a potentially nuanced subject as illustrated by the amount of hours we've devoted to it over the year. But ultimately,
we had to do something.
We did have to do. But ultimately, that's all it is. Really, it's an average game. It's an average game with poor games as a service implementation, and a long road ahead of it if it wants to get back to what it could have been on paper.
Yeah.
See, I kind of agree with Chris in the sense of I don't think they're done with Marvel's Avengers. Like I do think we will see updates, additional stuff, DLC, and in the way that we keep talking about Anthem because we're saying like, oh, I think it will come back.
I just felt like everything about Anthem felt like a fucking disaster, whereas Marvel's Avengers just felt like a shrug of the shoulders until the financial reports came out of Japan. And then everyone started to be a little bit more down on it.
I see. Okay. Yeah, that's fair.
Prior to the news on how much money it failed to make, everyone was just kind of like, yeah, Marvel's Avengers.
Right. If you'd have been told that it's actually doing pretty well and there's a decent audience playing it, I don't think I would have been surprised. I think I would have gone, okay, there's people out there who just keep going back to that game. But when we found out how bad it was doing, it was a little bit more shocking.
Yeah. Anyway, September, guys, was maybe one of the most interesting non-game release news items, but more about game developers, etc. Because it was announced that Xbox Game Studios has acquired ZeniMax and all of its subsidiaries for $7.5 billion.
Huge,
massive. Yeah,
I mean $7.5 billion, like mad. So let me look something up here. But yeah, so ZeniMax, obviously owners of Bethesda, id, to name a few. It's kind of mad.
Yeah. I hesitate to use the word unprecedented because I know Microsoft have been in the market for a long time and they've been rumored to have made other equally as high profile acquisitions that didn't always come together, and so they stuck to the slightly smaller ones for now.
Yeah, I think EA was one of the big ones that was rumored at the various points.
There are always rumors like that just because Microsoft have so much money to spend if they want to spend it. But even still, I was caught off guard by this one, and we spent the best part of a podcast talking about it at the time because the repercussions from this could be so far-reaching and have fascinating knock-on effects for the future of massive franchises like Fallout and the Elder Scrolls.
Yeah. Well, I said at the time, I said this is a great way for Microsoft to buy their way into console exclusives that people actually care about, right?
Yes, without a doubt.
So, an interesting thing, just as a parallel, Disney bought Lucasfilm and all the Star Wars properties as part of it for $4 billion.
Wow.
Isn't that mad? Isn't that mad? Yeah. So, basically, Microsoft that's worth more than Star Wars. Which is mad.
Yeah, but games make a lot of money nowadays. And do you know which games of all the games that make a lot of money, do you know which games make a lot of money? Bethesda games.
Yeah. Another aside, Disney bought Marvel for $4 billion. So
Jesus.
They're almost saying that
those are kind of...
They're almost like saying ZeniMax is... I mean, they're not because, that's not how... It's not equatable, but they're saying Marvel and Star Wars equals one ZeniMax.
I see what you're trying to do.
But I'm not. I'm saying it's not. That's not how it works.
I suppose because when you think about, obviously, when you talk about these developers, you're talking actually about people, studios, kit, equipment, titles. When you talk about Star Wars, that surely is just the name. Like that's just the license to make Star Wars.
Well, no,
shit.
Because you're buying all the LucasArts, all the Lucasfilm. Everything.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same.
They're not just buying the IP scale? Because that's a separate thing. They're buying the company.
But is it? And you buy everything that's been released. But I almost think that you probably, even if you buy the company, as long as if there's nothing being made at that time, sure you own the. Do they own the back catalog? I don't even know how that works.
Of course they do.
But it seems like you'd have less physical bodies on the ground.
It's a bit more difficult with
do you know what I mean?
Star Wars because it's like. 20th Century Fox owns like the original trilogy or some shit like that. Like it's a bit messy, but yeah, effectively. Let's put it this way.
I can't imagine there were many buildings, computers, like all that sort of shit in the same way, in the same scale. I'm sure there was a bit of that with the acquisition of Star Wars, but I can't imagine it was on the scale.
Dude, the value of these sales are all down to the IP. You're right in terms of that, but don't underestimate the fact of the offices and the people.
Yeah,
I'm not undervaluing the people. I'm just saying that the name Star Wars is worth a. It just that to me blows my mind. I know, I get this. They didn't spend much, but that to me, like you're basically buying the name, and with Marvel, you're basically buying the rights just to make a Marvel.
It just I hear that.
You keep using the word "just."
Okay.
because when you buy
these are the two biggest entertainment for like non-video game entertainment properties of the entire last decade, perhaps even century. Like, what do you mean just buying Star Wars or just buying Marvel?
No, because it's literally you're just buying the name, and the name is worth so much money.
That's all you need.
That's my point.
Then why use the word just? Like it's a bad thing.
No, it's not. I'm saying it's literally like you're basically paying for just a name. You're not attaching value to things necessarily that come behind it. Whereas I want to say with ZeniMax, you're attaching value to all of the infrastructure behind that and the people and whatever they're doing.
No, but hold on,
moment,
Jonesy, you're forgetting
buying like an infrastructure.
If you buy Lucasfilm, you're buying Industrial Light and Magic.
Oh, okay, all right. I hadn't thought about that. I still don't think that the stuff behind it is worth any. I still think it's the Star Wars. It's like Star Wars. We own Star Wars. That name is worth that name, to use a word.
Yeah. Is it kind of like what you're saying is that when Disney bought Star Wars, Disney had to take the idea of Star Wars and do something with it, whereas when Microsoft buys ZeniMax, they just kind of like, yeah, you guys all keep where you are, keep doing what you're doing, keep working on the next Elder Scrolls game you're already working on.
It's almost like it's almost like they've bought an infrastructure to produce something new. Whereas if you're Disney, you buy Star Wars, you can do whatever the fuck you want, but just because you tied Star Wars to it, it's worth $4 billion. Whereas I think
the difference between
it's like the difference in buying an infrastructure,
buying the right to make Kit Kats or buying a factory that already makes them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, kind of. Yeah, it's one is the ability to produce things by a lot of people with a lot of abilities, and one is going. To be fair, we just want the names because then they're a license to print money.
So you're saying that's why the disparity in value.
I'm saying that there's $4 billion maybe underplaying how much like those things are worth in that sense.
I don't know. The difference in value is somewhat startling to me, and I'm sure there's more to it, and I'm sure there's weird stuff about technology and the different industries, and obviously video games can generate a lot of revenue nowadays, in some cases more revenue than movies, but they don't necessarily consistently do so.
That's true. That's true.
Like don't get me wrong, Grand Theft Autos of the world, like fuck any movie. Like Grand Theft Auto makes $1 billion in 3 days, let alone in its fucking whole cinema run. Like, yeah.
Wow. What is how much Skyrim is made?
I don't know. I wonder if there is a dollar value to it. I always wonder with games that have been out for 9 years, whether it's like you can't just multiply it by $60 anymore, can you? You can't multiply sales by 60.
There's a weird thing with movies as well, because you can make a movie in a year and you put the data out there into the world and it exists and that's it. With games, it's like it takes you 7 years, sometimes 8 years, 9 years. You've then got to support it. There are patches. There's an infrastructure. You've got to have the hardware. You've got to do. You can't just go now. It's in the world. It exists.
But
you've kind of got to.
In spite of all that, games traditionally are still cheaper than movies.
Yeah, that's true. There's a lot of games which are produced much more cheaply.
How about this? As of just a very quick Google search, an article from January 2014 puts Skyrim at 20 million copies sold.
Wow, 20 million copies. Actually, that's not. I would have thought it'd be more, given how.
That's in 2014, dude.
Oh, 2014.
Yeah, the game came out at the end of 2011.
Yeah, by now I imagine that's got to be a lot more, right? Like a shit ton more than that.
I mean, 20 million times by $60 is $1.2 billion. So I doubt they've made that much money, but you can make a lot of money making popular video games.
An article at the end of 2011 says that Bethesda shipped 7 million copies of Skyrim, garnering $450 million in global sales. That's in the year that it was released.
So yeah, I guess because in the year it's released, the closer to release you are, the easier it is to multiply the sales number by 60 and have an accurate figure, right?
Yeah. But just saying, it's like there's big money to be made here. Like if you take that kind of thing and you project it, because this is obviously what they would have done, right? They're like, how much money is it made so far? Let's project it to the next release, this, that, the other, right?
Yeah.
Interesting. I think Microsoft really, they just made a 4D chess move, a real 5-head move, and they knew that if they rebooted Brink and made Brink 2, then they'd just print money. True
that. Well, there we go. And yeah, capping off that month, fellas, CD Projekt Red walked back their stance on mandatory crunch, announcing studio-wide 6-day weeks ahead of launch, which seemed to be... I kind of thought that up to this point, all of their delays and everything were kind of met with how to put it. People were taking it in their stride, right? They were like, okay, sure. if you need to delay this game because it's the fucking messiah of gaming and it's the most hyped game like almost ever.
Can I just throw in? Yeah. Imagine if they hadn't crunched.
Yeah. Then we'd have a buggy mess this time next year.
or we'd have absolute shit show this year. It'd be. Yeah. I wonder what the state of that game was back then.
Jesus, yeah.
Doesn't bear thinking about, is it?
But yeah, I kind of feel like this was the beginning of the end for CD Projekt Red, right here, because up until this point it was like, look at this developer. They look after their studio. They give away free DLC. They don't do microtransactions. You know, it's like people were on CD Projekt Red's side as a developer, never mind the games. But this started to kind of, I don't know, tarnish their reputation, as it were. And yeah, maybe the start of their downward spiral, as it were.
We didn't know at the time, but maybe it was with hindsight, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, but then, that brings us to October, which saw the release of Rogue Company, famously backed by Dr. Disrespect. Crash Bandicoot 4, following on from the remakes of previous Crash Bandicoots. Star Wars Squadrons, FIFA 21, and one of Jonesy's favourite games, Watch Dogs Legion.
Very good game.
Yeah, a weirdly muted month, though, probably because of what they all knew was happening in November at the time.
Yeah. It's kind of strange. It's almost like the entire year has the spectre of Cyberpunk kind of following it around, right?
That's even more crazy now, because you've got to think about all those games that moved around their release schedules, like were really worried about that game coming out and dominating the market. And now you think like they must have thought, shit, we should have kept our release date the same, and we would have probably.
I think they were right to be cautious, especially because it.
Of course,
it is still dominating the sales. But there you go. But yeah, nothing overly kind of crazy going on here. Star Wars Squadrons being an EA game that isn't riddled with microtransactions, so fair enough. FIFA 21, which is just more FIFA, fair enough. Watch Dogs Legion is probably the most interesting release of that month.
I thought it was the only game of the rest of them that I actually played, but I thought that for me was a strange one, because Watch Dogs Legion was something that was talked about a lot in the couple of years leading up to it with its development. I can't remember the first time we saw about it, but
yeah, well, it had a big delay, right?
I don't know how long the delay was, but it was reasonable, yeah.
Yeah.
Which Jamie, do you know how long that delay was?
It was from the start of the year till October.
Yeah.
So which we're talking a long old.
It was going to be in that March April period.
But it's for anyone who hasn't played it, because it does. It's one of those where I'd be interested to see how many people were actually playing it, how many people bought it. But I think they did a really good job with that game of making an engaging, like fun sandbox where it is what it tries to be, and it does it really well. It's never going to be like. I'd be surprised if many people were saying it was going to be their game of the year or anything.
Yeah,
but a very enjoyable game, a fun game, a cool world, and yeah, nails a lot of stuff. Gets a lot of stuff wrong, as you'd imagine, but hey, what you gonna do?
Yeah, is what it is.
Is what it is.
Look, obviously a couple of other things going on, but I'm going to fast forward ahead a bit because Cyberpunk 2077 went gold. And what I love here is in the document that I'm reading from, it says, Cyberpunk 2077 goes gold. Lol.
Yeah. I mean...
What does that mean? Like now, what does that mean?
No, now it means absolutely fuck all. But what it used to mean back then is the game is done and it's been sent to all the, it's been sent for print, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, it basically means we've run out of time to, this is the latest we can wait to wrap it all up, put it all on a disc, send it to Microsoft and Sony, and beg them to ignore all the glaring errors and make false promises about how much we're going to do to get it in a far more playable state by the time it enters general release.
Yeah, little did
Which
we
apparently
know,
is a thing that happens.
Yeah, little did we know that Microsoft and PlayStation probably went back and said, no, I still need to fix it, which is why we got another delay. But yeah, interesting, because at that point we were like, oh, well, the game's definitely coming out now. There's not going to be no question about it.
The game's done. Come on, it's done. They've just got to tweak some stuff.
Little did we know. Then, fellas, November. PlayStation, Xbox, let's fucking go. Demon Souls, Dirt 5, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Destiny 2, Beyond Light, Astro's Playroom, Bugsnax, Godfall, Spider-Man Miles Morales, Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, World of Warcraft Shadowlands.
It was a big month. Big month.
Big month, fellas.
And a fun month to be a gamer. I enjoyed getting a PS5. I enjoyed playing a bunch of those games. It was nice. In a shit year, November had a few things to be excited about. Obviously, not everyone could get their hands on the consoles they wanted to, which is the kind of the flip side of this story, which is a real shame. But yeah, I'm glad that those consoles came out the way they did, and I've had a great time with the PS5 so far.
Hell yeah, and a lot of big profile games there as well.
Yeah, for sure.
I think for me the standout from November, if I had to pick one experience, I mean, Astro's Playroom on the PlayStation 5 was a very fun introduction to that world.
Yeah.
But I think they absolutely nailed for me. Miles Morales releasing on the PlayStation 5 was a joy to play and be and to just be involved with that. Like you said, it sucks that loads of people haven't been able to join in with that, but I think Sony played a blinder, and having that specifically, that game to get your teeth into and to look at the gorgeous world that you can run on a PlayStation 5 was pretty epic.
Yeah. And what about your time with Demon Souls, Jonesy? Probably the most impatient gamer I've ever known, playing a game that probably needs the most patience.
I've been really enjoying it. Like, if you had to ask me what was a better game, Demon Souls or Spider-Man, or Miles Morales, I'd probably say Demon Souls.
Wow,
based on
that surprises me coming from you. Not to be offensive or anything, but yeah,
based on how you, as a gamer, how you play that game and how those games and how you, it feels like Spider-Man Miles Morales was a great game and a really enjoyable experience.
Yeah.
But if you had to say to me, as a game, what has more kind of impact?
Yeah.
I'd probably go Demon Souls. I mean, it is close. It is close. And I think I'm only 4 bosses in or something, so I've got a long way to go. But I'm still playing it, and Miles Morales wasn't a full game, so I wouldn't have expected it to be.
Bore off.
No, you know what I mean. It's a whatever they called it, a 3/4 length, or it's a portion of a full game. It's not a full game of its own rights. And then again, Demon Souls is a remake, so it's not that's not a modern era.
Yeah, I kind of feel like 2020 has really been the year of remakes, isn't it? But yeah,
didn't we say that last year as well?
Yeah, well, it's just ramping up. Yeah.
Maybe.
But yeah, what about Valhalla? Both of you guys have played it, right?
I'm 30 hours in.
30 hours in.
Yeah, and I'm still very much enjoying it. I still have the motivation to push forward, which is good because you need that in Assassin's Creed games, and the second that motivation leaves you behind, you're in deep, deep trouble. Yeah, I really did kind of grow into it. I really wasn't sure at first about some. I didn't like the combat particularly. I actually think I went on a podcast a couple of weeks ago and said a couple of really negative things about the game when I was about 5 or so hours in.
Yeah,
and it's improved since then. And I think some of that is a sort of a Stockholm syndrome like effect, where you keep playing that game, you keep pushing forward, and eventually, if things don't win you over, you just get used to them.
Yeah, you tell yourself that everything will be all right.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm so determined to get it done because you guys know I don't like having games like that hanging over me.
Yeah.
I'm the same, Jamie. I'm the same.
Oh yeah, you and me cut from the same cloth in that respect, Jamesy. Like for example, I couldn't imagine having as much as 20 to 30 hours of a game like Death Stranding left, like hanging over my head for an entire calendar year, no less.
Or even like 2 hours left of BioShock.
So here's the weird thing: I'm more okay with that because that always feels like sit down once and get it done and it's finished. Who cares?
Yeah.
But when you know you have 30, 40 hours or something left, it's like, I'm basically never going to finish it. Yeah. And that's depressing.
Yeah, I get you.
Yeah.
So
what? And that? So which is worse? What the
bigger one is worse.
I think falling off bigger games is worse because you have more of a mountain awaiting you if and when you go back to it.
Yeah.
Oh, right, okay, yeah.
I have a question for the both of you. Valhalla or Odyssey?
Oh, Odyssey.
From what I've played, like I'm probably only 10 hours into Valhalla. I purposefully stopped playing it because I want to get my teeth into that, and I knew that it was the wrong time to do it. Because I've got like a one enemy still to defeat on Legion.
Yeah.
I started playing Cyberpunk, but actually, what's happened with Cyberpunk weirdly is probably going to be quite a good thing because I'm tempted to put that on the back burner until February because I almost now. Given that what they're going to do to that game, etc., so I might have
just in time for your brother to get you Ghost of Tsushima. Yeah?
Oh, don't! That's going to have to stay in the plastic until like April.
It's bloody not. I'm going to log on Boxing Day, and you're going to be 17.
100%. Yeah.
It's just because I'm like a kid who gets toys at Christmas, and I have to play with everything. But yeah, so I purposely stopped Valhalla before I got into it. So I think I was like 10 hours in, which is long enough to get through the whole intro, prologue-y stuff, blah blah blah, and get into the game properly. A very cool game, looks great. Although I will say at the moment, probably Odyssey for me too. It just feels better and less. Some of Valhalla feels janky. I'll say it like that. Like, some of the stuff doesn't work very well. Like Jamie alluded to it, some of the combat doesn't feel great. I've had bits, even where I'm at, where I tried to raid a place and the music's going da 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 da, and I'm like, I've fought everyone and there's nothing to do. And then you realise there's one guy who's glitched out a bit and has just janked into a little area on top of a building, and I had to go find this dude by just scanning everywhere until I could find him, and then sort of managed to shoot him in the head from some weird position because it had just broken a bit. And that to me is a little bit representative of the experience I've had so far.
But I mean, I think that's been emblematic of a lot of Ubisoft's releases this year. Is jank to be a word for it?
Yeah, but to be fair to it, Legion didn't have anywhere near the level. Like Legion, at least, like felt fine in most respects. Like you didn't have stuff like that. There was other jank to it, but it didn't feel the same in that way. It didn't feel like the world was a little broken.
Yeah, that's I do get where you're coming from, Chris, and that like 2021 is where there's, they're gonna have eyes very closely on them because of the post Ghost Recon Breakpoint drama, the delays to games like Watch Dogs Legion, Rainbow Six Quarantine, and the game that at the time was known as Gods and Monsters. I think they just about got out of this Christmas period okay, because Watch Dogs was in a good state. Valhalla, people have been able to overlook some of the bugs and the jankiness, and Immortals seems to be fine as well.
And I think also people look at certain games and see that it's almost like you look at a building that's kind of like a little bit dilapidated, but it's okay because next to it is a building called Cyberpunk that's on fire.
Right, maybe, yeah. Big test, but now it becomes Far Cry, right?
Yeah,
that
Far Cry
game's
6.
already been delayed once.
Yeah,
that's a big one for 2021. Where
is that going to be their next big release? Yeah,
I believe so.
Yeah,
might be a smaller one along the way. I still think that weird like downhill biking kind of East X Games kind of thing is still coming out at some point.
Yeah,
but that's a game where like Ubisoft need to show that they're still on the right track in terms of like getting up to the levels of AAA quality and polish that they were demonstrating a couple of years ago when they had a really strong year.
Yeah.
But also breathing new life into a franchise that I think needs a couple of new ideas. And also showing what they can really do with a game that has had the most time of any game that they've developed so far to bear the current generation of consoles in mind. So we'll see. Lots to live up to.
Yeah. Any of the other games you guys want to chat about?
Not in any real great depth, other than to echo Josie's thought and say Astro's Playroom, low-key, one of the best games of the year. And I can confirm I should be getting Demon's Souls for Christmas, and although, without going into too much detail, I'm not going to have a conventional Christmas this year, and that will hinder my ability to receive the things I believe I'm being given or gifted. Hopefully I will be able to share my pain with that game in the near future, because it's the first Soulsborne game I've ever bought. Since the first Dark Souls.
Oh, please stream it.
Yeah, please stream it, dude.
Well, I just don't know when I'm going to get the game and what work will be like. If I was having a normal
when
Christmas,
you get it, stream it.
No, but if I'm back working as normal, then I can't. It'll be the same as the last 3-4 months have been for me. It's just too difficult to time and to plan. But I'll try.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Anyway, guys, and then coming up to the end of the year, December, with Immortals Rising or Immortals Phoenix Rising. Fine, who cares? Cyberpunk 2077 is finally released.
Immortals Phoenix Rising. Let's just not. I'm gonna actually buy that for my wife for Christmas, because that's the one game this year she's
That is like, Chris, do you remember the episode of The Simpsons where Homer buys Marge a bowling ball?
She saw it and she asked for it.
Yeah, fair enough. You know what? It looks like a fun game, and I'd certainly be tempted to play it if I didn't have a few other things on the go. But yeah.
It actually went the other way. She nearly bought it for me because she wants to play it.
Oh, wow. I'm looking forward to that game.
Yeah.
I'm getting that for Christmas as well, Genty.
Nice.
Right.
But the big one, fellas, I guess, is Cyberpunk 2077, which after almost a decade in development, finally came out, and it wasn't the game that people thought it was going to be. Plagued with bugs, almost unplayable on previous gen. I was lucky enough to not have as much of a problem playing it on my PC. But yeah, just kind of, as we mentioned in the previous month, it's a burning fire. It's a house on fire. And CD Projekt Red, fallen from grace. Their stock has plummeted, as Jonesy alluded to at the beginning of the podcast. And people are kind of trying to come to terms with the messiah of gaming being a false prophet. It's what a time to be alive, fellas.
I feel like some of it isn't their fault. I'm going to put that out there. Like, I feel like we've talked a lot in this review of the year in ways that games that should have performed didn't perform, games that shouldn't have performed have performed.
Yeah.
Like what we expected, what we haven't expected. And I do think there is something to be said for, in the games industry specifically, the perception of the gamers in general and how things are going to be and what they're going to be. And just because something doesn't do that, we go, well, then it's shit. The difference with this is they've brought a lot of the shit, like the bugs and, that we've talked about before and a lot of people have covered. But I think fundamentally, it's still a very good game. It will be a very good game.
I think at the moment, if you are lucky enough to not be plagued, like literally plagued with bugs, I think you will have it's a highly enjoyable game. That's what it is, especially if you stick to the main path.
Even with the bugs, if you're lucky enough to play it on next gen, so I'm playing it on PlayStation 5. It's a locked off 60 frames a second, basically.
Yeah,
I think it goes down to like maybe 50, 55 frames in some really chunky sections. But then a lot of the bugs are things that you can kind of overlook. And then a lot of what is quote unquote wrong with that game is typical kind of RPG fare. Like, people try and compare this game to non-RPGs, and I don't think that's necessarily fair. We let a lot of jank go with RPGs because you trade that for being in that world. But then there's a lot of for me, the best criticism and the main criticism is the lack of RPG stuff.
Yeah,
is the stuff that's not in the game is the biggest oversight,
or I think just kind of maybe like undercooked stuff. So we talk about
undercooked.
We mentioned it last week where the AI, it seems like they've just got a placeholder AI for like police and cars and stuff. So that's stuff that hopefully they can just take out and put in something that functions. But like stuff like the crafting, it's almost like, what's the point? And I feel bad for them with how much is going on, because if we're using the house on fire analogy, though, they're going room to room, right? And getting rid of the fire, but then they've gotten rid of fire in like 3 rooms, and they're going to put out the fire in the 4th room, and then the first room just catches on fire again. And it's like,
it's so true.
you know, like the latest thing is this save corruption bug, where if you have too many stuff in your inventory and your save file goes over 8 megabytes, then the save file gets corrupted and you'll lose everything. It's just like, that's mental. And I can understand that as a bug, as being like a bug that any game could potentially get, but because it's a room that catches on fire in a house that's on fire, it's like, fucking hell. It's just everything upon everything. Yeah. Like, I'll say it, like, as buggy as Cyberpunk is, I think it's still up there for Game of the Year for me. I don't think it will cinch it. But it's definitely in that conversation, which is mental to think about with all the negative press around it. And it's not like that negative press is unwarranted. It is warranted, but it's just I never thought we would be here. Let's put it that way.
No, me neither.
Me either. It's weird because I want to say, like, obviously with games, there's certain things you can hang your hat on. You can say, yeah, but they did this really well, so you can overlook this because this was really good, right?
Yeah.
You can overlook, like Jamie talking about Valhalla. You can overlook some of the jank in the world of Valhalla because the core of it is an enjoyable open world game with the crazy vistas and the combat might not be that great, but hey, you get to do these cool missions and explore and do what, like, you can do that with games, and you kind of have to with a lot of games. But with this, the problem is, I think, the things you can say are really good aren't enough to outweigh how bad the bad is, and the bad just seems to be getting worse as people kind of go. Now you've got the save bug. A lot of the bugs they say they've cured aren't the ones that most people are talking about, or they're not the things most people are talking about. And now they're getting smacked upside the head with potential lawsuits from investors, could they, and refunds, and the fallout with Sony, and it just seems to get worse and worse for them.
Yeah.
I'm genuinely scared of, and let's see if you guys think I'm being too tinfoil hatty.
Yeah.
I'm almost scared that due to problems with lawsuits and stock prices, etc., CD Projekt actually fail as a company, and then we never get the game put into the state.
No shot. You don't believe that's a possibility.
I believe it's like maybe 5% chance.
You think the biggest video game company in the entirety of Europe fails while releasing a game that sells 20 million units in its launch month?
I don't know how it would happen.
Dies because it makes the biggest game of the year.
I don't think it will happen, but there's there's that unrational 5% of you that kind of goes, anything could happen.
Yeah.
Every time I hear a news story about the save files are corrupted, they're being sued, the Sony have pulled it from the store, I'm like, what would happen if they literally failed and they just said, we've got to just pull the plug and we're not supporting this game anymore?
But hold on, because all of this is almost the consequence of the fabled algorithm, right? Because the algorithm is favoring all this negative press around the game, and it's almost like this.
I don't think it's the algorithm. I think it's the people like us who kind of go, oh, everyone's talking about it, so we need to talk about it, and we want to talk about it. No,
but we feed into algorithm. The algorithm is this like esoteric kind of thing, but we talk about the negativity of it because the negativity is the most fascinating thing. But then we are reporting on stuff that we have read that have been sent to us because other people are talking about it, and it's the self-perpetual cycle. But there is a lot of good in that game, but it's just not worth covering for a lot of people.
Yes. No, that's true. And there's also a weird thing that people do. You tend to sort of start looking for it. It's like Devotion, right? When Devotion came out and it got banned, someone found a thing that was dodgy in that game about the Chinese, what's his name? Zhao Jinping. Then people went looking for more because they knew one bit was there, so they went looking for more. I feel like a lot of what's happened with Cyberpunk is people found shit stuff, bugs, jank, whatever, so they went looking for it.
I don't think you really have to go looking for it in that game, Jonesy. I'll be honest. I think it kind of hits you over the head. That's the point.
But if my experience is anything to go by, you don't have. It doesn't hit you over the head, and you do have.
Yeah, but here's the thing, Chris. Your experience isn't anything to go by. Because you don't represent the tens of millions of players playing on previous gen consoles at sub 720p at 10 frames a second, where guess what, Jonesy? They are being hit over the head with how bad that game is.
Yeah, this is
I'm not saying they're not, but what I'm saying is there's some elements of that game which you then, once you find the bits that do hit you over the head, you then go looking for the other bits that normally you wouldn't find. And I think that makes
I don't know. I think
to Chris's point, that makes it worse.
Yeah.
That then, like, the house is on fire and it's like throwing fuel on the fire, because once you find
the house is on fire and the house is throwing, and the house had fuel hidden underneath it by the person that built the house.
But yeah, absolutely, yeah.
You're not going out buying fuel and coming back with the fuel. The fuel's already in the house that they built.
But then Chris is then talking about the algorithm, how it feeds into it, and I'm saying, but then people fuel that fire as well because they go looking for the jank, and then you can find it.
But I'm saying you don't have to look for the jank.
No, that wasn't the point I made. No, you're looking for more.
It's the thing you keep saying.
You're looking for more jank.
I'm saying that. Okay, what I'm saying then is it's irrelevant. I'm saying even if people didn't look for more jank, they'd still be. You didn't have to look for a bug that corrupts saves that will go over 8 megabytes in data. You don't have to look for that. The game is fucked in that sense.
But in the Reddit thread, which is hilarious.
Oh, that subreddit is pure entertainment.
Subreddits are always fucking trash fires, aren't they? Right?
But that subreddit is that. It's people look at 90% or 90%, 50% of it seems to be people looking for more jank. Like that, from what I see, that is the funniest stuff that makes you laugh and makes you want to share it.
I disagree.
It's nothing I've encountered.
It's
nothing I've encountered.
Yeah, but that's the worst.
Not frame rates.
That's the worst thing in the world. You are perpetuating the biggest meme at the moment about that game, which is that it didn't happen to me. I didn't.
No, I'm not. It did happen to me.
You just
no,
did.
I'm not. No, I said the stuff that is the funniest stuff that you see that you want to share is the stuff that didn't happen to me because I want to share it. I'm saying that do you know why I stop playing that game every time I stop playing? Because I have a hard crash.
Yeah.
Do you know what I don't share about that game is I don't take screenshots of my PlayStation 5 saying we've encountered an error and share it because it's not funny. But what I do share and what I do think's funny and what people do go, oh, look at this, is when they force even more funny memes and things to happen. You can't tell me you think what people share in that subreddit is what 90% of people are having 90% of the time, because it isn't.
No, but why would you? No, I never even came close to suggesting either of those statistics would be true.
You don't have to.
90% of the people, 90% of the time. Yeah, but where are you pulling 90% from?
Your argument is the stuff that people are sharing.
I'm saying,
showing
I'm
is
saying,
the stuff that
I'm
happens
saying,
constantly
I'm sharing when people share clips of characters T-posing or things clipping through each other or cars bugging out or horrible AI, with the exception of the only exception I'll make is when people figured out there were issues with the AI that could be manipulated for the sake of funny clips, in which case it was expressly obvious in those clips that that's exactly what was happening. The game was being manipulated for the sake of that content. I think the vast majority of other stuff is people who happen to have captured things. It's not like they're pushing around at the edges of this game trying to force bugs and things to happen. I've seen
so much of that.
Some of the most famous clips at the moment that are going around of Cyberpunk are people who are streaming the game and just trying to go about their lives and fucked up things happen to them. Those people aren't looking for stuff. It's happening to them.
There is they're not. I'm not saying they're looking for it. I said it and I'll say it again. There is loads wrong with the game. It's very buggy and a lot of the stuff is out there, but I don't think that you can say that there aren't now people looking to force bugs and issues and things because it's funny. Because it is funny.
I'd agree. I'd be more likely to agree with you if you said there aren't more people trying to force the conversation around bugs and things like that. And I think that's what that subreddit perpetuates more than the bugs themselves. It's people trying to take examples. Yeah.
I think it just makes good content though. Like everything I see recently that makes me laugh and go, that's mental, is I've not seen any of it personally in the game, which is why it's funnier to me to see it. I've seen T-posing once, I think. No, it's maybe twice. I've seen some stuff where you see a repeated character in the same environment, maybe twice. I've seen like crap popping, but none of it is that exciting, and it's stuff that you wouldn't notice in a normal game. But the stuff that I do think's funny and I do share and I've seen in the Reddit thread is mental stuff that I was like, wow, I've never seen that, but it looks hilarious.
That's what people do with that stuff.
But you're saying that's not. You're saying that that's what people are getting bashed over the head with.
I'm saying that a lot. That a large amount of people experience that stuff naturally.
I think the main problems with the game are really boring, like awful frame rates on the base.
Yeah, I do tend to
terrible
agree that they're the main
textures,
problems.
Shit lighting, but people, that's not as exciting as.
No, it's not.
What did someone share the other day? Like everything in 30 seconds that's wrong with Cyberpunk, and it was a guy who his car jumped off a bridge, flipped upside down, crashed into a civilian and killed it. Then he started getting shot at. The police spawned next to him. He went back to a car that then flipped onto its side, and then a guy got out of the car and walked upwards into the sky, and then the car exploded and killed him. And it was hilarious, man, and it was great. But
I will just say this, okay, because we've got to wrap it up as well. It's been over 3 hours now, but we
finally got to talk about Cyberpunk.
What a perfect end to a perfect year, right?
I mean, yeah.
It's like the kind of shit you couldn't write, you know? It's like fucking absolutely mental. And that's why we're all living in a simulation, ladies and gentlemen. So there you go.
I mean, Chris, your theory gathers more momentum with each passing day at this stage.
I'm telling you.
Hey, I want a little prediction from any of you guys then. What month of next year, of this year, 2021, what month will we say, do you know what, Cyberpunk is playable for those people that can't currently, or do you know what, it's not acceptable on how I'm playing it. So what year?
I'm going to say June, July, somewhere around there.
July.
Middle of the year.
What do you reckon, Jamie?
I don't know what you mean by accept. I think I need more clarification on what's acceptable or not.
Yeah, because technically you could still load up Skyrim now and still be like have multiple fucking weird bugs, right?
And for example, if one of our things for acceptable is that previous gen consoles have to say you hit 1080-30 with like a 98% bug free experience, I'll say never.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
I would agree with you. Okay, let's say the majority of players. I don't know how we'd measure it. I don't know. Let's not, because I don't know.
Yeah, you opened up a weird can of worms here, Jonesy. But moving on from the Cyberpunk thing, the last most notable thing to happen in December. Can you guys think what it is?
The SuperShow released their year in review wrap-up podcast.
There we go. Well, kind of. That we actually fucking managed to go 1 year plus. I think it's absolutely fucking incredible. And
it's all thanks to our lovely patrons.
Give myself a pat on the back, and I'm going to virtually give you guys pats on the back as well.
Thanks. Thank you for joining us in our last ever podcast.
I don't feel like I did much to deserve that. It meant I spent over 100 hours talking to you two donuts.
Whoa, hold on, sir. How dare you? Wash your mouth out.
I like donuts.
Does this mean you want to eat us?
Well, beggars can't be choosers, but
hey. But yeah, guys, it's been an incredible year, an incredibly shit year, but at least we had the SuperShow.
Well,
maybe.
I guess I do feel like that way. We were having a conversation the other day, weren't we, with some old colleagues of ours, and one thing that we all agreed on is that, like, and hopefully the listeners can relate to this in some way as well, having something that just kind of like, that you can not quite set your clock to, set your watch to, but something that, you know, comes out with some degree of regularity, something reliable for us to record and the folks at home to listen to or watch along with, has been nice this year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think not just for
thank you everyone for listening as well.
Thank you everyone.
Big time. You guys make us coming back each week have meaning, because otherwise it's just us chatting to each other, which, you know, we could do without switching on the lights and the cameras. But yeah, we really appreciate it. But I think that I think the watchers and the listeners feel the same way, that maybe, or at least I like to think, that we provide them with an anchor for a week and saying like, hey, if I find these people entertaining, then I know that at least I've got something to look forward to each week. So, you know, that's something, when I think of something like that, it makes me glad that we're doing what we're doing.
Yeah, I tend to agree. It's simple, and it doesn't require a huge amount from us, but it's nice.
Yeah. All right, and with that, fellas, I think, you know.
Oh, Chris, you're forgetting something, right?
What?
The code word for the entire year.
Ooh.
Oh my God, the code word for the year.
What about if we just have dumpster fire?
Dumpster fire.
That feels like emblematic.
Okay, let's have the code word as dumpster fire, because dumpster fire 2020, or however you want to deliver
dumpster
that.
Fire. I was gonna say dumpster fire 2077, but then 2020's probably been more.
Yeah, big time. I think 2077 seems like a fucking paradise.
What? Corona Punk 2020.
I think dumpster fire is good, right? But it did kind of remind me of something that I wanted to ask you guys. All right, and maybe let's start off with Jonesy. All right, Jonesy, what is your most memorable thing this year that had to do with the SuperShow?
Oh God, most memorable thing.
Yeah.
I don't even know.
Classic.
I've got no idea.
Jamie?
I guess it's a SuperShow adjacent, but for some reason, one of the first things that popped into my head when you asked that, Chris, was when we got to a point where all of us were streaming.
Yeah.
And we first started doing something we probably should have done more of with hindsight, but multiplayer streams. And we got on Discord and pulling in everyone's cameras from Discord and everyone's audio from Discord, and actually being able to play multiplayer and cooking up some old school kind of gaming, more reminiscent of what the ATG live streams were.
Some hijinks.
Some hijinks, yeah, and certainly closer to that ATG heyday than we're able to reproduce when we're on our own, which we more often than not are.
Yeah.
Off the back of that, I've thought one, but can I call out the Among Us stream that we did with our patrons on Discord?
Yeah,
that was actually a lot of fun. That was
wicked. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah. If only we had more synchronized free time that we could do that more often.
Yeah.
What's yours then, Chris?
Mine, it's a toss-up between two things, right?
Okay.
So the one thing is when we were like all the non-podcast content that we've released. We didn't release a lot of it this year, but I'm proud of all of those videos that we did release. Kind of labor of loves, call it, but kind of capturing a little bit of that essence of what I used to love about ATG. But then the other thing is actually known murderers.
Yeah.
I fucking love the whole known murderers slant so much so, and I even spoke to you about this last week, Jamie, that I still really want to do our own podcast called Known Murderers.
Known murderers, man.
Wow. It's like, do you know what would be amazing about that would be how quickly we get sued.
I don't know. You throw in a couple of allegedlys and supposedlys, and I think that's how the law works. You cover yourself that way.
You're right. I think you're right.
Ignore the fact that the podcast itself is called Known Murderers.
Anyone on it is do you know what we have to do? We have to talk about some non-murderers just to get as a plausible deniability to go. We also feature non-murderers.
Nah, mate, because it'll be called Known Murderers, and it'll be like episode 1, Known Murderer Matthew Broderick. Episode
the
2,
man who
known racist Mark Wahlberg.
Jesus Christ.
Some of those things.
It's basically just celebs that are scumbags and talking about how they are scumbags. Not necessarily that they murdered people, but the encompassing thing would be called known murderers. It's as clear as day that it could be like such a fucking 2021
it would do well.
Phenomenon. Like
it would do well.
Yeah, like you talk about. Like Netflix is making a murderer. Like I can imagine we do this podcast and then Netflix knocks on our door saying like, "Hey, Known Murderer could be a really cool 6-part series." And we're like, "Yeah, of course it would. Let's fucking make it." 2021, the year of the Known Murderer.
Making a known murderer.
Yeah. Oh, and of course the other thing I have to give a shout out to it is the whole fucking DualSense controller. It's just fun. It's just funny. But yeah, those are my highlights among many, all right? Because it has been a bit of a wild roller coaster, but there you go.
Filming in Chris's house.
Booyah, booyah. And buffalo wings after the filming.
Don't talk to me about food, please.
Okay, fine. I won't. But yeah, with that, guys, unless there's anything else you want to say, we're just going to say, let's look forward to a fucking amazing 2021.
It can't be any worse than 2020.
Don't say that. It fucking can be.
Famous last words of Jinx.
Remember when we got into 2020? It was like, oh, thank God 2019's over. No, No,
2019 was
give me
quality
2019 on a fucking platter at this stage.
Yeah.
But
What a nightmare. Anyway.
And with that, thank you so much for watching this super long, 3-hour, 23-minute podcast. It's all for you. See ya.
Bye.
See ya.